Hey everybody, welcome to Movies We're Talking About, where we talk and talk and talk about movies. I'm John Carlos, and today I'm joined by artist extraordinaire Chogrin.
Hey, how you doing, Giancarlos? Part two of Beetlejuice. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, and thanks for kind of suggesting this, because I would even say at the beginning of this year,
Hmm.
um, I wouldn't even expect to have liked Beetlejuice, let alone liked it enough to want to talk about it.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and when I'll even admit when I don't think I'd seen Beetlejuice 2 yet when you had kind of casually mentioned doing it.
Mm, mm, mm,
And I'm like, ugh, because I kind of went into the movie going, ugh. I'm not saying I
mm.
loved it, but I'm like, for a show called Movies We're Talking about, I'm
Yeah,
surprised that I have something to talk about with this fucking movie because I actually liked it.
yeah. Listen, I don't blame you. I think that feeling comes from like a lot of these, like, what do they call them? Like reboot, the requels, reboot sequels.
Hmm.
That sometimes they're kind of hit or miss, you know. And I think a lot of people kind of had like that. What's that emoji, like the cringe face, like kind of like about this movie, and I was kind of weary too, and then I saw it and absolutely fell in love with it. And like I like, the more and more I watched it, I think I must have seen this movie, like, not kidding, 5 times in the theater. It just kind of, sometimes I find these movies that just kind of become like this, like, kind of comfort, almost like, in a way, like, where they just kind of get like a fine wine, they just get better each time. And this movie to me was just like, it was just great each time I watched it.
And
So
I love that for you.
yeah.
I did like
Oh,
it,
yeah.
but yeah, so far I've seen it 3 times.
Oh, okay,
Um,
okay.
Damn, five in a theater means you really, hey Mikey, I think he likes it.
I used my AMC membership
I
well.
yeah, I hear that a lot because I'm in the free entry level of AMC stubs, but I know
Yeah,
people that are like, oh, I use my AMC thing, and yeah, okay, cool, yeah,
yeah,
maybe I'll sign up for that someday. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
so yeah, it's not just it's to me, it's also this the we live in the era of the requels and we live in the era of legacy sequels,
Hmm.
and I'm still pretty cynical about the corporate desire to just mine an IP, especially an old IP where the generation has now we've got two or three different demographics of ages that we could target, and I understand
Yeah,
that people want to feel nostalgia for the things they love, but the trick is to make a movie that's actually worth a damn and not just nostalgia bait. And
yeah.
so many legacy sequels suffer from just like overindulgence of member berries and or regurgitating the same thing again. And
Yeah.
I kind of went into this um, with my arms crossed,
Okay.
and very quickly was like, hey, hey, like there's so I mean we'll get into it. There's so many like first of all, I love that it's not just the movie Beetlejuice
Hmm.
again.
Yes.
It's not the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
beats. It's not even the same tone. Like, and I love when sequels do this, where it's a sequel, but it is got its own. It's a different agenda. It's got different people, kind of a different focus for who the leads are.
yeah,
It's got a different approach, set in the
yeah.
same universe. Um, I was surprised how much it's kind of its own movie and not just a regurgitation.
Yeah, no, what's great about it, and like, just kind of bounce off from what you just talked about, this is actually a movie that was made, you could tell was made with a lot of love, because actually the studio wanted to bury it. I think it was like Saslov basically was like, he wanted to premiere it, like, just on streaming. And I think Burton was very adamant, like, they kind of sort of like cut down they took, like, I think the actors took cuts, like, and like, I think in return, if the movie did well, they would get, like, profits or whatever. But like, it was a love project. Like, they all kind of took a risk to just make the, like, no studio notes or anything like that, and just make the movie that they wanted to. And I think they were successful in that way. I mean, I love the movie, but I do have like little things that I think would have been kind of cool, that just kind of like, ride off like from the first movie, but at the end of the day, like not necessary. I think that, like you said, I think what I love about this movie is that it's just its own thing. It's like, a lot of people are like moaning and groaning about the Maitlands not being in it, and I think it's great that it's just
That's
this
fine.
movie is actually it's from Lydia's POV. So, and it's cool, Like I didn't know, like I think we talked about this in the like last time we were talking about it, but Tim Burton, I guess, like his Lydia was kind of like his like vehicle like character like that he kind of sort of like identified himself with. So it's kind of cool that he kind of sort of like put his version like an updated Lydia now in this movie.
Yeah, he
So
mentioned the idea that like he was a young goth boy or a
yeah,
moody boy, whatever you want to call it. So like as he's gotten older, he's like, I know what it's like when these type of people get older, and I want to make a movie where we see her
yeah,
as an adult and what she's up to.
yeah,
Um,
for sure, for sure.
which you mentioned last time, I didn't even know that the original title for Beetlejuice was Ghost House. So I like that her show is called Ghost House.
Yeah. Which I think it was kind of a joke. Like I think some like Tim Burton said like if they call the movie that like he said something like he would throw himself like out of a building like like and thankfully it was called Beetlejuice, but
Yeah.
it was kind of cute that and like I don't know how you want to start. I don't know how we're gonna dissect this like from beginning to end, but like I have to say like the big that I think that's one of the reasons I kept going back to the theater. It's just that Danny Elfman like the camera over the town, just
Mhm.
like I'm getting goosebumps right now. It just like experiencing that in the theater. It just felt like an event. It just felt like I was like, witnessing. It's almost kind of like in a way. I can't compare this to Star Wars, but when you go see a Star Wars movie, you're watching. It's like history. You're watching an event happen before your eyes, and I felt a little bit of that like with his Beetlejuice. It was just like, holy crap! Like never in a million years like would have thought that they were going to make a sequel to this. I felt a little bit the same way when I saw Ghostbusters Afterlife. I did not like that one as much, but I did like what they did with it. But anyways, I think it's funny. I'm wearing Ghostbusters again. I think I wore Ghostbusters last time. I'm wearing Ghostbusters again, so it's kind of in theme.
Yeah, I unfortunately don't have any Beetlejuice shirts.
Hey,
I had one a long time ago when I was like 20 years ago when I was much younger and much thinner. But
yeah,
that shirt's gone now. Yeah, no, the opening. Well, there's a few things that struck me about the opening, but the first one that really stuck out was, and again, I am so resistant to legacy sequels and reboots and remakes.
yeah,
So the second we start with the opening shot, I'm like, okay, I see what we're doing. Oh, we're doing the music. Fuck, don't fuck up the music. And then I'm like, oh, I have
yeah,
since like I got the opening main theme like on one of my playlists because
yeah,
it's a good update. It doesn't dishonor the old one. It just
mm,
sort of stands alongside it. It's got
yeah.
in fact it's actually I don't know how far back into Danny Elfman you go, but like the old like Mystic Knights, there's a lot of random like ooh ah, like just sort of
Oh
thrown in.
yeah,
Like
yeah, 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 yeah.
there's a lot more ingredients, but they don't overpower. But he just has a little more fun with it, and I'm like, you didn't fuck up the music.
He
We're
definitely
already off to a good start here. Like,
like listening to like the little bits of the score, I felt like he brought a little bit of the flavor that he put into Sleepy Hollow a little bit.
oh,
A
I can
little
see that.
like some like well, not like in not in the
No, no,
intro, but like in
but
the score,
later,
like
yeah.
there's some creepiness there. It's pretty cool. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Side note, you mentioned Sleepy Hollow. I didn't notice this until my third watch, but the tree that well, I think his name's Jeremy, the ghost boy.
The Ghost Boy, yeah.
He's hanging out in this tree house, and I didn't really pay attention. It's not beat you over the head like it's a twisty twirly durly, but like the tree
Yeah.
does twist, and I'm like,
Yeah.
this is
Is
a little
that
bit like the Sleepy Hollow tree,
yeah, it
and
would
and
be
also I like that it's a
yeah.
Tim Burton movie. It can't just be a straight tree; like it's got to be.
Yeah.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, that's the one I think that was one of the things like you can kind of sort of pay attention when you're watching. Like I think even Wednesday, when I started like the first couple episodes, like the trees, like some of the trees in the background were like had to be like twisty, Tim
Yeah,
Burton-y. So I yeah, that tree in Sleepy Hollow is a character on its
yeah.
own. So
and I was just surprised to see it in this one. Okay, that's a pro. In fact, there's a lot about this that I kind of respect that because it's weird. It's like we nosedived out of this, but there was a period where I feel like Tim Burton movies were kind of becoming a parody of themselves.
Yeah.
Like I felt like with Alice in Wonderland, without getting really into it, but like there's a lot of these like wide shots of her like riding through Underland or whatever the fuck, and you could tell that it's just like I don't even know if it's Tim Burton's ideas, but like everything in the background is like striped and bendy and wonky, and I had this feeling that like does he even care, or is his art team like, well, of course the tree is going to be wonky, we'll make them wonky, and he goes, yeah, 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 make them all wonky.
Yeah. Yeah.
An abundance of spirals and all this, and in this movie, it felt more like every art direction choice that felt Burton-y wasn't overindulged, and it all kind of served a purpose. It didn't beat you over the head, and I'm like,
Mm.
oh, we're like you're kind of back, and in a bigger picture
Yeah.
one of the things I really liked about this movie, as someone who was not a fan of Dumbo and was not a fan of a lot of the last few movies, um, it felt like how Tim Burton got his groove back. Like it felt like I was watching a director make a movie he wanted to make. I could feel it.
Yeah. Yeah.
He got his
I actually,
mojo back, and I liked it.
yeah. Yeah, I got that vibe, and the reason I kind of was excited for the movie was because when I watched Wednesday, I saw a little bit of that mojo back on that show, and I was
Mhm.
just like, oh, like Tim's coming. I almost felt like the movies that he was doing before then, like the last couple. I don't want to say all of them because there was a couple of them that I liked in between there. Like I liked Big Eyes, um, but it did feel like he was like on autopilot a little bit, and I'm so glad that like he kind of you even watching the interviews, like the behind the scenes of Beetlejuice, I can tell that he's pumped, like he's
Mhm.
like, like, and yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, I just love everything about this, like Monica Bellucci, Willem Dafoe. I mean, everything about this, Michael Keaton, like yeah. I mean, I actually, the first time I saw it, the character that was like, that I kind of said to myself, this is not going to age well, and like I hate this character, was what's his name, Justin Theroux's character. But I actually love his character more each time. I like
Mhm.
not love him, like love to hate him.
Mhm. I'm
um
right there with you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
My first time I watched this, I was like, "Fuck, do I hate that?" I'm like, he's so annoying. But I'm like, not just the character. I find Justin Theroux's performance like it's all annoying. And I know
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
character's supposed to be annoying, but like every time he's on screen, I'm like, bah, get him out of here. And
yeah,
then
yeah,
something changed on the second viewing and on
yeah,
the third viewing. And I like
yeah,
him
yeah,
across his whole career between comedies and David
yeah,
Lynch. Like I like him. But I fell into the groove of what he's doing more where I stopped being annoyed by him while still disliking his character for the reasons I'm supposed to dislike him.
yeah, yeah.
But for some reason, I was kind of like Astrid, where I'm just like, ugh, this fucking guy. And he's supposed to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
like, ugh, this fucking guy. I mean, he
Freaking
has so many funny moments. Like,
freaking master code breaker. Sorry,
yeah,
Star Wars fans will get that one.
yeah.
um,
Um, but we were going just talking about like him finding his mojo. I can't help but wonder if it's meant to be a not so subtle dig when help me out here.
when they were talking about the princesses of the costumes.
Yeah, I forget the
Yeah,
lady, the little,
yeah,
she's her own
yeah,
realtor now.
yeah.
But
She
they're talking
said
about
something.
they had a party
Yeah,
and they're like, oh yeah, it's a costume party. What's the theme? We agreed nothing Disney. And I'm like,
yeah,
oh, I think Burton and made sure that
yeah.
line was in there, right?
Yeah, that was kind of like yeah, there's a part of me I'm like it felt a little unnecessary, but there was a part of me I was just like, nah, he's probably like trying to like make a point, like drive it home, so like it's fine.
Yeah. And it what the characters say, none of it's mean. It's just if you know how he felt about production on Dumbo and he's like,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
right, here's my little
Well,
subtle jab.
but the actually what saves that line is that what I think what she says is pretty funny, like that she like I think she said that Astrid dressed up as the Cinderella's dead
Dead stepmother.
stepmother. So I was like, that's great.
Yeah.
So
And it's fitting because there is a universe in Disney and Beetlejuice fans that like villains and
Yeah. It automatically brought me to did you ever see that installation that Banksy did like of like the anti Disneyland? It was like Dismay Land or something like that, but it was hilarious. So anyways,
I
yeah.
remember reading about that, but no, I did not.
Anyways, yeah.
There's few
Yeah.
off also. I think you mentioned this the last time we talked about Beetlejuice that
Yeah.
the model in the attic now has the car in the little river
Oh yeah, yeah,
next to the
yeah.
bridge.
To kind of do a little tribute there to the
Yeah,
Maitlands.
but what I
Yeah.
didn't notice until watching it again now is also in the opening, as we approach the Dietz's slash Maitland house.
Yeah.
The at the bottom of the hill, there's also like a little, I think it's a river, a dried up ravine or something.
Uh-huh.
But you could see a little Barbara and a little Adam.
Oh yeah, yeah, like
That
pointing at
that's
the house. Yeah,
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 that's
yeah.
like the perimeter of like how far they could get from the house or something. But like I never noticed
Yeah.
there's a Barbara and Adam in the opening.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's is the car and they're there like a little bit like on the hill.
Yeah, I thought
That's
that
actually
was
one that no, it's really nice, and that's actually one of my favorite shots like in the movie. I love how like it goes like, and I think the original did the same thing. It goes like from miniature, like it goes from like the real town to the miniature. But I love that it goes like real town to the miniature to like to a set, to like a TV set where they're shooting,
yeah.
Ghost House.
I remember my first
Uh
watch, I was thinking like, okay, it's a model. Wait, Lydia's in there. What? And then we cut to the show. I'm like, oh God, it's like the opening credits of a show. It's this. Got it. So
yeah,
even when I got confused, I'm like, oh, there's a point here. I
yeah,
like that they did one extra step. Like there was a two punch effect in the first one. Now it's like a three.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
layers, man.
Yeah, no, no, like I literally just want to see a third movie, like Beetlejuice, 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 just to see what song they use for that one.
Right.
Because I love, I think we talked about this last time, but I love how like Danielle, like Deo was the first one. How I love how like Danny Elfman, like they use like for example, this one they use the Donna Summer version of
Mhm.
MacArthur Park, and like then Danny Elfman like like fades into the music. So I kind of want to know like just want to watch a third movie just to see what's the song that they're gonna wrap the whole movie around.
I was wondering
So
about that. I was also wondering how do you open it? Because it feels like if you do a second time, but I'm like, do you do a model for the third time? And in which case,
yeah,
what's the angle? What's the approach now?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then my other thing is just by making a movie titled Beetlejuice Beetlejuice,
Mhm.
I feel like you now have to make a third one
Yeah.
because you can't leave us hanging. There needs to be a Beetlejuice Beetlejuice Beetlejuice.
I think that was kind of very mean of them, like to kind of like they knew what they were doing. They were
Yeah,
kind of like they were winking at us. I'm like, you have to now. And then
if
like
you
Tim,
only make this one sequel, like that actually makes me mad. Like, and had it just been named Beetlejuice 2, I
yeah,
wouldn't be thinking about a third. But you named it
right.
Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. So like that ADHD brain's like, fuck at the third one.
God damn it. Yeah. I actually was like thinking about this the other day, and like I guess we can riff a little bit, but like I started thinking of ideas of what the third movie could be, and it would be hilarious. I think the only way they could take it is if Beetlejuice actually figures out a way to get to the real world and like haunts Lydia like in real life. That would be kind of amazing.
Oh.
So
I only had one idea, and it's not even for the movie. It's just I thought of how I'd end the movie like as a joke.
yeah.
At the very end of the movie, he'd go to Hawaii.
Oh man. Yeah. I
Like
and
we
for
never
sure.
do the movie, but just for everyone who knows that for years they were developing Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian. I
Yeah.
think it'd be kind of like the Nicolas Cage gag in The Flash. I think it'd just be funny. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, he's in a little Hawaiian shirt and
Yeah. Yeah.
end
Yeah.
credits.
Yeah.
He's just like drinking out of like a little coconut, and you go, ha ha ha.
That would be amazing. Or, I thought about like how do you get that house to Hawaii? And it would be I was thinking like it would be hilarious if that house like goes on tour or something, and one of the places it happens to be at is Hawaii. And I don't know why just the whole fucking house, but I thought it would be hilarious. Like I just want a scene in the third movie where the sandworm literally like breaks through the like tears apart the entire house, and that's how the house like basically it's like the poltergeist house, it like
Oh
sucks
yeah.
itself in. It would be cool.
And I
So
think they kind of is the image for the second movie's poster has like the sandworm.
oh
It'd be
yeah,
fun
yeah, yeah,
to finally do the thing that's on the poster.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Kind of like
yeah, yeah,
I think it was Ghoulies 1. The poster had the ghoulie coming out of the toilet. So then in the second movie, they actually had a
yeah,
ghoulie come out of the toilet. Like you need to pay that off. I'm glad you're
yeah,
talking about the house because that's one of the other things about this is that like at the end of this movie, well, first of all, we already have no Barbara, no Adam. Now you've
yeah,
got no Charles and no Delia. Like they're dead. So
yeah,
like you really just have Astrid and Lydia.
yeah.
So like the third movie would already have a smaller legacy cast. And then like I'm surprised how good of an entry point this story kind of creates for like why are we back at the location? Like why are we doing every
Right, right. Not just to be back there.
not just we're
Yeah,
back at the fucking house. Like no,
yeah,
there's a reason. There's a story reason. So like I'm
yeah,
for a third movie, like I don't know if you need to go back to that same city again. Give me
yeah,
something new. But what is something new? And if it's something old, how do you get back to something? So yeah, I honestly
yeah. I think
and
the
this
cl
movie did such a good job of giving me certain things again. I don't know how you do it a third time.
yeah, and if they don't go Hawaiian the third time, I think the closest probably we'll get to like the ocean is probably that the airplane death scene that they did in this movie.
Yeah.
That's probably the closest we'll get to Hawaii. So, um,
Let's talk about that for a second
which I mean,
because
like all things said, like just to kind of like put it out there, I think it was done tastefully.
yeah, in fact, well, I was surprised how much was done because I mean the internet kind of figured out just from the trailer and the shot of the grave that like, oh, so Charles is going to be dead. That's how we kind of get around
Yeah,
the oh my god of it all
yeah.
of him in real life. I already just forgot his name all of a sudden, but you know.
Jeffrey something. Yeah,
Yeah. But I went into this thinking, oh, his character's getting killed off. There's going to be a funeral. That's our way in. And then that
yeah,
was going to be it. So when
yeah,
we see his body without the top, still like the fact that he was still a character, I was like, oh,
yeah,
oh,
yeah, yeah,
I thought we were fucking writing Charles out, but Charles is still totally in this.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah,
would almost kind of be upset about that if it wasn't for how fucking funny that like
yeah,
his
yeah,
face, like basically, like, we don't want to look at him, and the fact that someone else is kind of voicing him,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
really goddamn funny every time he talks, and that little thing is like spurtling out.
There each time there's some a spur. Like my favorite one is the ending when is it Lydia? No, no, not Lydia. Their names are so similar.
Delia,
Yeah, Delia. When Delia like is like, oh Charles, and like she gets like a spurt of blood like on her.
yeah,
So
and then she goes, "Look what happened to me!" And it's like these two tiny little dots on her neck.
that I was not expecting at all in the
Me
movie,
neither.
and like I was just like, oh, that just happened.
Yeah,
So yeah, 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 it was amazing.
uh, I think my favorite Charles bit is the fact that when he sits down in the lobby, this giant douche of blood
Yeah.
hits the wall.
Oh,
I love the surfer looks at him. He's like, "Whoa, dude."
yeah. Do you know why that specific death scene was included? Because apparently Burton, like that's one of his biggest fears is to
Oh,
like die in a plane crash and then get eaten by a shark. So they literally animated like one of his biggest fears like in the movie. So it's
I love
kind of
that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and I do like the fact that like I'm just surprised that they included Charles because it felt like it would
yeah,
be just in bad taste to bring this guy back. But I'm
yeah.
surprised that they kept his character around, which I thought could be bad, and it ends up being surprisingly funny, and it works.
Yeah, yeah. For as like I'm a big continuity guy, and like like for example, like Ghostbusters Afterlife was a good example of how they treated Harold Ramis's character Egon. I thought that was done tastefully, and it was done with the permission of the family. Obviously, Beetlejuice is a completely different case, but I thought for all things done, it was done very well and creatively. So all things considered.
And
So.
it gave us stop motion too.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That studio is great. I think that's the
And
studio that Tim has been working with since Frankenweenie. So
but also like the first movie, again, I like that this movie kind of has its own tonal identity
yeah,
because that's not anything that happened in the first movie. They never cut away to just a stop motion flashback.
yeah, 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 for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
so I appreciated that. Um,
yeah,
Now, I am over the course of this. Like one of the reasons why I want to record about this episode is because I'm surprised how much I liked it.
Mm.
But I do have notes.
Well, let's hear your notes, and
And
I'll give my 2 cents too.
some of them are a
So
little nitpicky, but
yeah.
whatever. And one of them is, and hear me, I because also sometimes I have a note and then I have to do my own headcanon to justify it. And
Okay.
sometimes I go, I buy that myself. I buy it. And then sometimes I go, man, you're working too hard to justify this. So
Hmm.
there's a thing that happens with legacy sequels a lot,
Hmm.
or reboots, is when they do something that's meant to go ah ha ha for the audience. But I go, yeah, but within the world of the movie, why is this happening? And
Yeah.
when they're all singing Deo at the funeral, I'm like, well, the Maitlands were big Harry Belafonte fans.
Yeah. 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 You know
Why
who's
is
like,
Charles Dietz getting Deo sung at his funeral? I know that we all remember Deo, the audience, and we're at a legacy
right,
sequel, but
right,
why is Deo being performed at his funeral?
right.
I have a
Well,
justification for it, but I still haven't fully convinced myself. And my justification is that, well, actually, it's a multi-part. One, he lived with the Maitlands for a while as ghosts, and they
yeah,
would play music, and maybe it rubbed off on him.
yeah.
Two, he did get possessed during that song, and maybe like afterwards, when the dust settled and Beetlejuice is gone, living the Maitlands, they were like, hey, remember that time we all fucking got possessed and danced? Like it's kind of a fond memory for him. And in the years since then, he has kind of adopted Deo as like a fond thing.
Well, it's
That's
also
me doing the work.
well, it's also the song that the first movie ends with, and Lydia's floating, and they're all like living
Jump in the
together.
line is the song at the end.
Oh, never mind. You're right. It's the other Harry
Yeah.
Belafonte. Yeah, I was like trying to sing it in my head. I was like, I blended them together.
Like
No,
I
no,
get the song
yeah.
is identified with the movie. I get why it's in the movie. I just don't
I
get
did.
why it's being done for his funeral.
You know what? That's a good point. Maybe, you know what? I don't think it was like maybe a Charles decision. Maybe it was more of a Lydia
Oh,
or a Delia.
Cordelia.
Yeah. Because she immediately, that's one of the things I love about like keeping her character current. I love how she immediately wants to make the funeral like an art installation, like some kind of art project. So like,
And any other person would not pick Deo because I think they'd be thinking like, why would Charles want this? But the fact that
yeah.
she's a little out of touch
Yep.
as an artist and as a person, the fact that it doesn't fits her character. So I'm gonna I like that.
Let's talk about really quickly, since we're talking about the funeral scene. Let's talk really quickly
Oh,
about a character that's like kind of sort of like just like in and out of the movie, but like I forget the actor's name, but he's fantastic as the priest.
Burn
And
Gorman.
Gorman, I love him in
Eh,
Pacific Rim.
yeah, and the second he
Uh
showed up in this, I thought,
yeah.
oh my God, Burn Gorman would be such a good like stable of Tim Burton actors. And even
Yes.
though he's not in the juiciest kind of Tim Burton-y role, I hope he gets
Yeah.
something more than just like what he plays in this.
For
Love him.
sure. I feel like it's like Tim Burton's like I don't have a big role for you yet, but I'm gonna put you in
Yeah.
here
I
really
need him in
quickly.
another movie, pale, probably with some black shit around his eyes, but I need him to be like a creepy Tim
Yeah.
Burton guy.
But I love it. Like he has like an Irish accent in this, right? A little bit, or
God,
uh,
I can't remember.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to say for sure, but he has like some kind of like thing going on, and he's saying all this like religious stuff, and that was like my first like I laugh out loud when she's like, "What?"
Dude,
She's
yeah.
like,
No, that was I want to make sure we talk about that because that was I burst out laughing really hard as a former Catholic who has listened to that sort of
"Yeah,
mumbo jumbo.
yes,
Oh, may the angels take him into heaven's wings. It'll like wings like the birds that he liked to study, blah, 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 blah. And then she
yeah."
just hits his beat and goes, what?
Yeah, into like into the gates of like Elysia or something. Yeah.
I mean, everyone in the theater was just kind of chuckling, and I was like, blah! Oh, no, that's honestly my favorite laugh from the whole movie.
Okay.
Even
Okay.
with Michael Keaton being funny, I'm like, no, fucking Delia's what?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a
Pure
lot of
chef's kiss.
there's a lot of good moments like in this movie. Like for some reason when like Danny DeVito goes like, "Hey toots," when he goes like that makes me laugh. Like his character just like being like this like old timey like janitor like drinking Drano.
Yeah,
So
there's a lot of humor that's mined in like little moments without beyond just the big jokes. Again,
yes.
the awkwardness of Justin Theroux, like when he's at the after funeral, like and he's like, "Hey,
Oh
it seems like
Jesus.
your dad was like a dope, seems like a pretty dope guy."
He was like a pretty dope dude.
Yeah.
And I love how Astrid is like, you know, the teenager is the one that sees through him. Like
Oh yeah.
him and Delia look straight through him.
Straight through. And
But
Delia's constantly like, "Oh, you're calling off the wedding?" Like,
yeah, and she looks immediately like I asked her, like they're like kind of, you know,
uh-huh.
like that's actually something I really loved about this movie. I loved how they grew those characters together, because in the first movie, like you're like the parents are kind of like, well, not so much the dad, but like Delia is kind of like sort of like almost like not a villain, but just you're not like supposed to really like her.
No.
Um, so I love that then this movie, it's like, you know, and I love that they have real conversations about it. And I like how like Lydia says, like, you started liking me after I sold out.
Yeah.
She's like, no, she's like, I started liking you a little bit before that.
Yeah, and she enjoys seeing Astrid kind of
Torturing. Yeah.
torturing her because you tortured me. And
Yeah.
yeah, one of the things I liked, there's two big things that I appreciate about all that. One is the fact that I hate when sequels, like, especially when there's passage of time and characters are exactly the same. Like
Yeah.
what Lydia is a very young teenage sort of way. No one would still be acting that way
Yeah.
in their 40s or whatever the fuck, or early 50s.
Right.
So I like that they've relationships change and they over time have become this and acknowledge what once was.
Yeah.
I like that that felt organic, and
Mm.
I also just really like the idea of this movie. All the leads are it's like three generations of women,
Yes. Yeah.
and there's one
Actually,
dude, and he's a dumbass. Get the fuck out of here! I really liked their energy and watching one generation's relation to the next, to the next.
yeah.
I'm here for
Uh,
that.
speaking of that lineage, that's something that if they do make a third movie, that I would love to see now that Delia is in the afterlife. I would love to see, because they kind of like made a big comment about it. Was like, she's like, and my mom's not, is like her, like Lydia's real mom. She's not dead. She, you know, she just like, you know, they don't get along. So that would be kind of cool if that they incorporate some kind of character arc into that in the third movie.
Yeah,
So. Oh, you know who they should? Oh my God! If they cast man, who played Morticia in Family Adam's Family?
Michael Douglas is Catherine Zeta-Jones.
No, but like in the '90s ones,
Oh, I'm sorry, Angelica Houston.
Angelica Houston. That'd be amazing.
That'd be cool.
Yeah,
Trying to
because
think
I
what.
don't. Because has Tim Burton worked with Angelica Houston? I don't think so.
No,
No.
unless she
Um,
voiced some. No,
when
not.
when I was little, I would confuse. I thought that the Adams Family movies were directed by Tim Burton, but they're Barry Sonnenfeld.
Right,
So
but if I'm not mistaken, and I might be, because I know,
yeah.
okay, so Rick Heinrichs worked a lot with, but I'm pretty sure Rick Heinrichs was a production designer for
Oh yeah.
those,
Yes.
and you know, going back to
Oh,
Vincent, yeah,
makes
I think
sense. Makes
there's a
sense.
yeah, either that or it's funny because Burton for a long time would work with Rick Heinrichs or Bo Welsh, Rick Heinrichs, Bo Welsh, and then
Yeah.
Rick Heinrichs did a lot with the Coens, crossbred with Barry Sonnenfeld a bit, so
I
yeah.
love. Just want to mention this really quickly because I already made a little mention earlier. But how amazing like Rick Heinrich's work in Last Jedi, freaking amazing.
That's random, but I mean, I fucking love Last Jedi. So,
Yeah, it's one. I think like from those three movies, like that one, like you can tell like the art direction is like, you know, on
oh
point.
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
But anyways, yeah,
Coming back, one more thing about the funeral, I just got to mention because it
yeah.
really makes me just visually. There's not even a joke. It just fucking makes me laugh. You have to presume that the funeral was kind of guided, directed by Delia.
Mhm.
So when I see the tombstone is in the shape of a shark's fin, I'm like, what the fuck?
You
Like
know,
it's such bad taste if it was real. Like if
y
I was killed by a shark and my family made my tombstone a shark, fuck you. But that's really fucking funny for within the.
You know what's really funny about that is that I didn't notice it until like the second or third time watching it.
Yeah,
Like it, like
same.
I was like, oh,
I always kept
so
looking at his photo,
yeah,
and then I noticed,
exactly.
wait a minute, it's a shark's fin. What a shitty thing to do.
Talking about not to want to go back to like rewind back to the beginning, but actually one of my other laugh out loud moments was when they're driving to get Astrid to the school, and Rory, like, like Delia's talking about, like, like how she has never dealt like with like this kind of loss and stuff like that, and like Rory immediately has to like interject and like put himself into the conversation, like actually there's a lot of little moments like that, but one of the funniest ones is in the car when he says like that his grandfather died, and he's like, oh, 40 years ago. It's like, like my inner child is grieving
Oh.
still. So what's the other one that he does when like Lydia is taking the pills in the bathroom, and he's like, if you're sad, I'm sad. He's like,
Yeah. Yeah, like we share
so
the same heart. So like if you're hurting and but that here's fucked up. If you're hurting, it's like you're hurting me.
yeah.
Instead of I'm hurting too, it's like I'm getting hurt.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
like
speaking of that scene, I mean that's it's funny because one of the biggest complaints that people, not just critics, but general people I talk to seems to have is that they think there's too many themes or stories or plots going on. I used to
yeah,
think that. I don't totally agree anymore, but I do think
yeah.
it really felt like there was going to be something more to her popping pills. And then we
Yeah.
just never fucking bring it up again. I go, oh, crap.
Well, it's kind of. I mean, I know we were probably going to talk about this, but it's kind of sort of like my biggest like pain that I have in this movie is like not giving Monica Bellucci enough to do. Like I want like the big scene at the end when she walks in and she's like, she storms in. I wanted there to be like, I wanted like to you to feel like Beetlejuice was going to be in a little bit of trouble, like she was going to start sucking his soul or something. Like I wanted a little bit more, but I mean that's kind of like,
Oh,
if I had a nitpick, that's my nitpick for the movie.
I
So
have some thoughts on that. Yeah, I'm with you. At first when I first saw it, I was like, it does feel like there's an awful lot going on in this movie.
yeah, yeah.
However, something about the second time I watched it, I'm like, this feels less scattershot than I felt maybe that first time, and I think I had to kind of adjust certain expectations.
Hmm.
And I'll probably get to that in a moment, but I won't deny there are two elements of this movie that are not just undercooked, but just sort of they don't even really matter in the end, and their placement is kind of pointless. One is yeah, I just forgot her name all of a sudden. But Monica
Astrid.
Bellucci, no, Monica
Oh,
Bellucci's character,
Dolores.
Dolores.
Yeah,
So it's interesting because when we have this big introductory scene that feels like,
yeah,
oh, who is this person? Oh, it's Beetlejuice's fucking wife. Oh, okay.
yeah,
And then we see the finger get reattached. To go, oh, okay, I remember that finger.
yeah.
Um, actually, so my thing was by the time we get to her scene at the end,
Hmm.
I went, wait, so we had her throughout the movie just to show up, not fucking do anything, and just get eaten by a sandworm. And I went, wait, if you fucking cut her out of this movie completely, that has no impact to the movie as a whole.
Yeah, I think she was honestly there just to build like some kind of tension,
Well,
like
that's the
in the.
thing is, I think you can get around that though because like I kind of wrote like a little flow chart of because I want to keep track like how many times in this. So she shows up, we have her introductory scene, and she establishes like Beetlejuice is mine. Then
Hmm.
she goes and she kills the laundromat guy,
Yeah,
and I know she writes something on the wall like Beetlejuice belongs to me.
yeah.
Um, she walks down a hallway and people are scared of her. And then she gets to Beetlejuice's office.
Hmm.
Then she finds Bob. And if we were really setting her up as some kind of threat, but what seems to happen is once she arrives, the other thing is the Willem Dafoe cop.
Yeah.
They have a scene where they go to the crime scene. He pulls in Beetlejuice. He goes, "This girl kills ghosts, so
Mhm.
you need to lie low." And they go, "Okay."
Mm.
So that's a setup for him to stay in his office for like two or three scenes,
Yeah.
and then he. I'm not gonna get too into it, but like he sees that Charles died, which for some reason means that he can go talk to Lydia or something.
Yeah.
Lydia, I need you to marry me because that will stop this girl from killing me. And I'm like, but you can cut all that out and just write any reason. for him to be talking to Lydia. And I
Right.
remember talking this out with my girlfriend, and she's like, "No, but the cops chasing after her." I'm like, "Right. And if you take that out, you don't need the cop anymore. All the cop does is once Lydia and Beetlejuice come to the afterlife, the cop is like, 'Hey, there's a human in here. What the fuck?'"
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that doesn't pay off because he gets to the church with all these cops and immediately gets frozen,
Hmm.
doesn't do anything, gets unfrozen. So I'm like, the cop doesn't have a payoff to his story either.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
cop
yeah.
out, cut the ex-wife out, just make it a story about Lydia, Astrid, Beetlejuice, make up another reason that doesn't rely on these two storylines that go nowhere. The cop doesn't do anything in the end.
But you know what they are? They're
They're
ex.
fun
They're yes.
because
They're
Willem Dafoe is fucking showing up to work.
it's extra. It's extra stuffing. It's extra fun stuffing. So
It's really empty calories well, here's one of the reasons why it bugs me.
yeah.
It bugs me because to bring it to Star Wars, she's like the Darth Maul of the movie.
Ah,
Really great design,
right, right,
very
right,
underused. Should have been in it more.
right, right, right.
And if you
Absolutely,
knew Darth
absolutely.
Maul was only like that fucking the horn, and then you're like he gets cut in half and he's out. He only had 3 lines. What the fuck?
Yeah,
I honestly think um, they should have
but
just saved her for a third because like again like she is design wise and casting wise a really strong
yeah,
presence.
yeah,
Like first of all, she meets the Tim Burton kink, Catwoman with the suit stitched up, Sally with
yeah,
her skin stitched up. Like it's a
yeah,
Burton woman.
yeah,
And if you had written her to have more
yeah.
screen time, more presence, more purpose, more threat, that's a whole fucking third movie lead villain.
You're
And
gonna laugh.
instead, she just fucking
Yeah,
walks down a hallway and does
yeah.
nothing, gets eaten. And what a waste of a Darth Maul design.
I will say this. That's like looking 10 years from now, when we look back at this movie, that's she's gonna be the character that makes like that movie obviously iconic. I mean, it already has. But there's a part of me that wants like almost like two things. I almost want like to see a little side story of what her and Justin Theroux's character are up to in Saturn, in the third movie. And then there's the other part of me that because I'm obsessed with like, paranormal and secret societies and cult stuff. I was like, I want to know what soul sucking cult she was a part of in Italy.
Oh yeah.
It's almost kind of like I gotta when I watch Afterlife, I was like, I thought it was such Ghostbusters Afterlife. I'm talking about just to be specific. I thought it was such a missed opportunity for the town not to still have ghoster worshippers in the town.
Oh yeah.
So such a missed opportunity. So,
I
but
used to sit around with a certain friend and we would spitball our own sequel ideas.
yeah.
And years before Afterlife, Ghostbusters 3 had Gozer worshippers in it. Like
Oh, like
the whole catalyst for the movie and the third act reveal is Gozer
yeah.
worshippers. Yeah.
I'll like listen. I mean, I'm not even gonna apologize because I think I do this, and every time I've come on, I'm gonna go in a little quick little segue, and I'm gonna pitch you like what my Ghostbusters 3 would have been really quick, and the intro would have been okay. What's two things that the first two Ghostbusters movies have in common? Dana Barrett. Dana Barrett is key in the first one. She's key in the second one with the baby. So to keep it on Dana Barrett, I thought the third movie has to open with a flashback to 84. And this is kind of sort of my way of implementing Hellboy into Ghostbusters.
Oh.
Dana and Lewis slept together. They opened up the gate. And there's a deleted scene where Lewis after they defeat Gozer and everything, Lewis goes up to Dana and Lewis goes, Dana, did you and I? And she's like, no, Lewis, no. They obviously did.
Mhm.
So I thought it would be cool to show that deleted scene and the beginning, flash forward to 30 years later, and there's Gozer worshippers on the building again, like in the 2000s, and they're trying to invoke, and basically a child comes in, and it's half human, half Gozerian. So the whole movie, that's how you kind of add like a Phoebe character. You add like a child that's basically like a bad guy at the beginning, but then by the end of the movie, she's part of the team and she's a ghost. She's half ghost, half. So I thought that would have been kind of like a cool a cool way. I also didn't like that the Ghostbusters were out of business, and I thought that by now it should have been like franchises everywhere. My version of it was the thing that Ray killed Egon in an accident by accident, and Ray had been ousted out of
Oof,
the Ghostbusters.
that's
So,
sad.
well, hey, man, and science happens. So, but the biggest, okay, I'll stop talking about Ghostbusters, but my biggest nitpick from Afterlife, and I think I might have already talked about it, was that it's almost like they were like, we're gonna make a sequel to one, and sort of just ignore two, because, and the biggest like culprit is Ecto One. Ecto One literally looks exactly like the first movie. Obviously, they added like the little sliding door and all that
But
shit.
what happened to everything they added to make it Ecto 2?
It should have been a fusion, and the 2009 video game did such a great job in fusing both those cars, because they kept the one logo, but they still had like the hazard stripe that two had. So
Hmm.
I feel like that little attention to detail would have been nice, but
Oh, not to keep talking about Ghostbusters, but if I'm not mistaken, and you'd be the one to ask, the car in the second movie isn't Ecto 2, it's Ecto 1A?
it's Ecto One A. So
Because
this should have.
Ecto 2 was like the helicopter toy or something, right?
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
So, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, they didn't retain anything chronologically from Ghostbusters 2 on that car. It's just the
yeah.
first movie. Yeah.
Another thing that really bugged me, for anybody that saw Frozen Empire, the containment unit like blew up in the first movie. So why would it look exactly the same it did from the first movie? Because that's actually something, I'm gonna get really fucking nerdy now. There's an episode of the real Ghostbusters called Citizen Ghost, where it literally explains why the real Ghostbusters wear colored jumpsuits, and it's literally because the episode starts with their fighting Gozer, and their tan like movie suits have like ectoplasmic residue from the Marshmallow Man, so they
Okay.
have to throw those suits away, and they get new suits. And anyways, they basically they explain like, oh, the containment grid blew up, so we had to build a bigger containment unit. That's why the in the real Ghostbusters, the containment unit is like huge. So I thought that was like another missed opportunity, like in these new movies. It's like, no, it's like these movies have like this thing where like, no, everything has to look exactly the same, and I'm like, no, it doesn't. So, anyways, let's go back to Beetlejuice. I guess
Um,
I guess I guess me wearing Ghostbusters was on point today. So
yeah, it was with the giant Slimer behind you too.
yeah,
Um, but it's sort of related because 80s and ghosts. I don't know.
yeah,
But
yeah,
speaking
yeah.
of ghosts, so we've got this Willem Dafoe character, which is kind of fun. I mean, on paper, I
Hmm.
don't need it. It's a cop who it's an actor who thinks he's a cop from cop
Yeah,
movies, and now he's a cop. Ha ha ha. But what's fun is that Willem Dafoe's energy like really kind of infuses that role and makes a meal out of it. But I just get so disappointed in that it feels like we got this investigation. We're
yeah.
investigating this Danny DeVito body. We're on the case to see what happened to this laundromat guy. Oh, Beetlejuice's wife is after him. And then, oh, actually, it turns out now I'm chasing after Lydia.
Yeah. But
And
but
now it turns out I don't do jack shit. The end.
but
Because I,
John,
'cause I got frozen.
you got to keep it real.
Which, like, yeah, he it does not. Yeah, I'm not a fan enough of his character to be like, yeah, catchphrase. I don't. Yeah.
I know, I know,
Um,
I know, I know. I for some reason, like, you're right. I agree with you. Like, every time I watch the movie, he's like the one character, especially somebody like Willem
there,
Dafoe. Willem Dafoe, you know. But
there are.
there's something about him. I don't know. It's fine.
I mean, well. Here's the
So
thing I like about it. Again, it's the bigger picture. What the fuck is going on here? But I love all
yeah,
the jokes about like he's talking to the cops. They're all lined up, and you see
yeah,
the lady with his cue cards because he's still an actor. All these little like actor bits.
yeah. They're great.
You want a selfie? Like all
Yeah,
that kind of shit.
yeah, and they don't even, no, actually my favorite part of that like was when he freezes everybody. I love that you could tell that Willem Dafoe wasn't available, or not even that he wasn't available. They had to shoot probably for a long time, so they literally built
They
like a
built one. Yeah.
like a cast of him, like just like in that pose is great.
Yeah,
So
it's interesting because like when you do that, usually it's because like there's a dead body, or like I don't know, like in Harry Potter or something when a character's frozen.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And, but you could tell, like, well, you could just. It's like, no, Willem Dafoe's like, I don't want to stand still
Yeah,
and
yeah,
hold it. No,
yeah,
so they
yeah,
that's no, I enjoy that one.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
Uh,
I think I don't know. It's very easy when other people go like you can cut those characters out, but like you really could just cut Dolores out completely
yeah,
and
yeah,
have no
totally.
greater impact to the bigger story. Same thing with his character, but thankfully he's fun.
There,
And I just I don't want to say I get upset, but like
yeah,
she's such a cool design
yeah.
and she's such a great actress, and you could really have done so much more with that.
I know, I know. There's probably another version of there's of this movie that exists that doesn't have Dolores or Willem Dafoe, and there's more baby Beetlejuice.
Yeah, I mean, the baby Beetlejuice. First of all, his introduction's fun. The ending of the movie is a little weird because I don't know if it's meant to be sequel bait,
Uh,
but I couldn't help but wonder if like, well, is your third movie like Rosemary's Baby with Astrid, and
yeah,
like,
that's
and maybe there is some weird magic loophole that Beetlejuice can exploit, kind of like
yeah,
Freddy Krueger in Nightmare on Elm Street 5. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah,
I can
yeah.
get here through the baby.
Yeah, let's. Oh, dude, let's talk about how messed up that is. Like, had a crush on Lydia, and now has a crush on his on like on her daughter. I was like, ooh,
I mean, does
yeah.
he have a crush on Astrid?
Not really, but I mean the that scene at the end. I'm
The
like,
scene at the
Jesus,
but well, that's my thing is
Jesus.
that scene is it's her dream.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right.
So
You're right.
like
You're right.
so Lydia's
You're right.
dreaming about it's Lydia's worries,
That's
you
true. That's
know.
true. You're right. You're right. Oh, you're right. She's like projecting like what like she's thinking what might happen to her might gonna happen to her
Right.
daughter. You're right. You're right. You're right.
Yeah. And then
I
she
also
wakes up in bed with Beetlejuice and then she wakes up for real.
yeah,
So I don't know if a third movie would pay off her fears,
probably not.
but
But but
but
but
I know
but no.
a lot of people read that as that's what the third movie is Beetlejuice, she's gonna get pregnant. But
Yeah.
I just thought no, I just thought the baby was a really fun get like it was just it's a joke about his inner child, and then
Yeah.
she
I I loved it, and I love the introduction scene of it because like I literally they got like a like what the fuck moment like out of my like reaction out of me because I was like, what is happening?
well first of all, it's a very gooey movie
Yes.
between Charles and then his guts falling out and her shooting a baby out of her, and there's a lot of random fluids in this movie. I forget there was another one where someone got like killed. I was like, oh, that's gross. Um,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, for a PG-13 comedy,
yeah.
there's quite a bunch of fluid in this.
Well, especially that's one the one scene where like the baby is like biting all the doctors and there's
Oh,
literally
that's
like
it. Yeah, it's blood. It's not
I
even
got
goo.
I got Sweeney Todd like vibes
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. But I also just personally just like anytime a small little thing is harmed, I usually laugh. So when the inner child is first born
and he
and
kicks him.
just drop kicks it, I fucking guffawed. It's so good. And then it lands and just starts making all sorts of shit and fart sounds. I'm like,
Yeah. It's
I'm a
actually
child.
I actually there was another movie that I recently watched called Wild Robot where the fox kicks the duckling and I also
Dude.
laughed during that
I've saw
because I
that movie 3 times in theaters. I fucking love The Wild Robot.
saw it twice. It's fantastic. Yeah,
It's great.
fantastic. Yeah,
But yeah, no. One first of all, there's a lot of little things that this movie does that I really respect that we're kind of dancing around in this moment, which is that uh, like Beetlejuice, like when he in the first movie he shows up like as a tour guide. He does an ad where he's just like a cowboy. So I like that in this one they have a whole bit where like he's a therapist. Like we don't
yeah,
just like, oh, put him in the black striped suit the whole movie. Like no,
yeah,
we're gonna play with comedy a bit. He's a human cartoon character. He manifests things.
yeah,
He gives Lydia a giant fucking boxing glove. And he's
yeah.
like Bugs Bunny. He's got the truth serum, and somehow in the real world, truth serum works. And whatever. Like, but
That
I like that they played with the way Beetlejuice works without just repeating it all. They still get
like
shrunk, and they end up in the model. Completely different scene in the model though, and I like that
yeah.
they're playing therapy with it.
No.
Couples
It was
therapy.
it was cool. I think that, and you're probably not gonna agree with me, but like that was probably like my one nitpick is that I wanted. I guess it's a little bit like repeating the first movie. I did want like Beetlejuice to have like some kind of like big transformation like at the end.
Oh, with like with the hat and the
Like not to
mallets.
not to toot my own guru toy that I did, but it would have been cool like for him to like have like multiple limbs or something like, you know.
Oh,
But
sure.
I
Well,
mean for what it is, it's great. For what it
here,
is, it's
but
great.
here's one of the things that you but here's the thing that I like about the movie. It doesn't go too hard on fucking member berries and doing everything that you like over again.
Yeah, exactly.
It's it
Exactly.
they I was really impressed how little, and when they
Mhm.
did do it, it usually worked. The only one I kind of roll my eyes at is he does the you like it like bit, you know,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
the setup to it's different, but it's the same shot. A bunch of shit comes out of his head. We see it from behind.
Yeah.
But you know, they do the song possession, but they move it to the end of the movie.
Hmm, hmm.
There's a couple music cues, like at the post funeral service. It's the I don't know the piece of
Oh,
music that I am so alone, so utterly alone, like that sad opera music.
yeah, yeah,
They,
yeah.
they don't beat you over the head with this shit. And there is a
Yeah.
point where after the sandworm and after the realtor's daughter all grown up, like you could start doing everything.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
even
yeah.
though you're right, like he doesn't have a big transformation, I also respect the restraint.
Restraint. There's like little things that like I mean, and this is getting nitpicky for like, you know, sometimes like movies like have like a timelessness to them. I don't know if I cared of them including like, you know, influencers like in the like, you know,
Oh
in
yeah.
the, but I know the whole reason that that was set up was like so they could do the gag like with you
Right.
know with the phone. So which was actually pretty great.
Well, and I do think it's a
So
nice payoff that they live by the phone. I don't want to say they die by the phone, but they are a victim of their own.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
But
so
speaking of
I
phones, one of the things I really like is like in the first movie, Beetlejuice shows up as just like on a commercial for the TV, and
yeah,
in this one he
yeah.
shows up as like a bunch of like spyware that
Yeah,
like pops up,
and
and like
I love it and I love that it's a lot of the old ads from the first movie, like mixed in
yeah,
with like some new ones. Yeah,
I like that
that
his flyer is a different flyer, but a flyer in the attic.
yeah.
Um,
There was a part of me, and like I'm just gonna interject this really quickly because this was my other like not necessarily a nitpick but idea. It would have been great if the movie would have started with Beetlejuice still waiting in line from the first one.
but
Uh,
okay, I
but
also but I respect the fact that it just moves on.
yeah,
There's a
no,
lot in
no.
this movie where they're like, "Fuck it, whatever, we don't need
No,
to."
no, I actually the reason I know that doesn't work that well is because like you would have had to set up a whole scene of him like, oh well now I need my own like, you know, agency, you know. So I just love that basically you can kind of sort of like already tell a story like he met the shrunken head guy while he was waiting in line and then he got a bunch of those guys to come and work for him and he started his own. It's
Yeah,
great. It's
yeah,
great.
I didn't ever need to see how he got his head unshrunk. Didn't need it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In fact, one of the things I really like about this movie is they don't, and I hate when sequels do this when something's pretty straightforward the first time, but since the community has grabbed onto it, we make it a bigger deal. I like
Yeah,
that there
yeah.
isn't some big reveal of Beetlejuice. We just like pull down to him in his office and he's just at work. Like it's just another movie. And here's
Yeah.
Beetlejuice doing his thing. We don't need to make a big fucking thing of it.
Exactly,
I love
exactly.
that.
It's great. It's great. Yeah, I love trying to think what else I love about this movie. I love the lighting. I love like that it's like it's a little updated. I love that they brought back the Butterfields. Like it's the daughter now, you know, running the house. Like
Mhm.
that was cool.
What do they call her? Littler Jane?
Yeah, literally. Uh, and I love I also that's one of my favorite actually one of my favorite like funny lines is where like Rory like literally Delia sets it up like where like Rory just went to return all the candy because he likes to suck the fun out of everything.
Hmm.
And then the kids literally come trick or treating and he's like here's a carrot for you and he's like because nobody likes a big fat clown.
Yeah.
I was like Jesus. Uh
They
but
keep giving me reasons to hate them. Yeah.
yeah, and like I'm pretty sure like when the priest picks him up in the car, I'm pretty sure he says like he shit himself. And like that like
Yeah.
yeah, he gets in the car and the priest is kind of sort of like just like
Yeah, and I mean
so
that's one of his better deliveries. He's like, "Oh, shit myself out here," and I love that. I forget what he asked what the priest is doing out there. He's like, "Oh, I'm looking for the sheep of the flock," but then you hear like the jingle of his brown paper bag full of booze.
Yeah. It's great. It's
Yeah,
great. Yeah.
no, there's a lot of little. I mean, I have a lot of little nitpicky things, but overall, I like quite a bit. But yeah,
Yeah.
there are some little, and also little things I like. There's a big approach. I'm going to talk about things that I like right now.
Okay.
There's a big approach to doing things practically and also not overdoing it. So
Yeah.
like, when he spills his guts and it's a practical effect.
Yeah.
Stuff like that's great. I appreciate the stop motion. I appreciate the practical growth of the little puppeteered Beetlejuice,
The little piranhas on the
the little
dad's
piranhas on his
face.
face.
Yeah.
But there's a couple instances of little things that I really appreciated. One is like when she calls Beetlejuice and he rises from the town model. It isn't some big CGI swirl. It isn't even a big practical like Rube Goldberg or anything. It's just he fucking lifts out of the table. And
Hmm.
that's all you fucking need. That's probably all they would have done in 1988.
Hmm.
And I just
Yeah.
really respect it. I'm like, yeah, we're just up in the attic, and he just sort of lifts from the table.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's
We
great. And
still we still draw on the door and on the wall, and a door just opens, not a CGI portal. And you go, hey, that's not what it was like last time. Like, no, it's pretty much how it was like last time. We put a big green light on the other side, we blow some
yeah,
smoke, the wall opens.
it's
Great.
it's fan no, and like, and that's one thing that I love about this one is that world, the afterlife does feel like you're literally stepping back into like the
Yes.
same setting as the first one, and
Oh,
that like, but I love that's actually, but that was probably my special feature, like in the behind the scenes and just in the movie in general, because you can see it is all the dead people and how they died, like it's
hmm.
just fantastic.
Um, I think you would agree with me. In fact, you might have even posted about this
Yeah,
on your socials. That fucking burnt up Santa Claus.
the Gremlins dad.
That's the dad from Gremlins. That's Phoebe Cates' dad.
That's the first thing I thought of.
Headcanon. Like that's what it is.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah,
love the
actually,
circle.
actually, somebody fought me on it because they were like, "Well, he didn't burn," and then I was like, "But then like, I read like, I was like, I put the scene because they didn't find him like after I think it was like after a few days later, so they totally like lit that chimney. They could
Yeah.
have lit that. They could have lit that chimney.
She doesn't have to pepper her story with, well, we lit the fireplace for 3 days. Like, no,
Yeah,
it's in a fucking fireplace.
yeah.
My only thing is he's still smoking, but I'm like, no, but I feel like if you're in the afterlife,
Yeah,
you're always gonna look like the way you look when you died. I feel like he's always gonna be smoking. Either
yeah,
way,
exactly.
it's just the gag. I love the
Yeah.
crazy cat lady who's got chunks of her bitten out by her cats.
Oh, and I love that Beetlejuice tries to pet it and like, like more of a dog person.
Yeah. Oh, so first of all, okay, so here's another little thing I love. And it's not just Tim Burton, but movies in general.
Yeah.
Everything now is just bigger. We shoot on blue screens or we build sets and we digitally extend them. And sometimes everything's needlessly big, and I don't know why. And
Mm,
you look even at Tim Burton movies, you look at like Dumbo, when we see the carnival, it's like this massive carnival. Wonderland is this epic fields full of and I love that in this movie
mm,
we see like the hallway and it's just a short little hallway. And
yeah.
even when we run around the hallways, they don't go on for forever. We go down one short hallway, there's two or three doors, we go to another. Even when they expanded it, they didn't digitally expand it because it's the afterlife. It's just
That's the one I think
soundstage.
that's the one thing that happened with Tim is that once he got like added CGI to a tool, and I mean I can't fault him at it because anytime an artist adds like a tool to their belt, you're of course you're gonna like want to play and experiment with it. So I think like you could see it like in like really big, like noticeably in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, like when like the factory was like don't like it was like huge and it went on. It didn't have like that small, like sort of like I don't know, like there's something about like the factory in Edward Scissorhands that feels like so
Mm-hmm.
even though it's like cold and like like it's machines, there's something like magical and like whimsical about it. So
There's something I tell myself a lot. I've never really said this out loud, but to me, when things are digitally huge and meant to be epic, I'm like, epic no longer feels epic.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
All
yeah,
these
yeah.
big, so that Charlie and Chocolate Factory, when you just see like all these chocolate conveyor belts, I'm just like, but you run down a hallway and then around the corner of another hallway, and then you go into Saturn and I go, oh, that was cool. I
Yeah,
can feel the texture of it, and I appreciate that. And I love that the lobby for to seeing your caseworker. You know, it isn't like 4 times bigger. It's still
Mm.
just fucking the couch next to a thing, and there's a wall in a corner, and first of all, it's comforting that it's the same, essentially the same dimensions. But I love that they didn't overindulge themselves with that. Even when we see new spaces, like like I think it's like the ticket gateway or whatever,
Oh
where
yeah,
people
yeah,
are in
yeah,
line. It's bigger than like Juno's, or not just Juno, but all the caseworkers' office. It's bigger. It's
yeah,
still not gargantuan.
yeah, 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 yeah.
You could tell it's got about 5 or 6 windows and some lanes and some doors over there, and it's a modest, functional set.
That's actually something also, like, speaking of the afterlife, is something I loved. I love that we didn't like necessarily have to see a lot of the dead people that we saw in the first one, because it's the afterlife. There's always going to be a revolving
Mhm.
door, like, of dead people, and you're not. That's actually something great. Like, obviously you can't do a Beetlejuice movie without Michael Keaton, but like in the even in the third one, like, you don't have to bring you it could all be fresh, like, new dead people.
Yeah, there can
So
be a new human character who dies and goes down there, and I mean, I love that we got to revisit that world and actually expand upon it,
yeah.
but expand upon it on a way that's not gratuitous. Because
Totally.
there, and also when Lydia and I think Jeremy, I think I'm always going to get his name wrong. I think it is Jeremy.
Hmm.
We
Yeah.
just are also Charles. They just go through the turnstile, kind of like how Barbara and Adam did.
Oh
There's a very, if this movie was made by other directors even just a few years ago, we would see them falling and going what, and there would be this big vast black thing, and they'd eventually walk through the fog and find a turning turnstile. This
yeah.
is just no, just all we need to do is hard cut to the turnstile. We don't need more.
That's it. Yeah.
That's all we need.
Exactly.
We
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
we all
Yeah.
understand it.
Yeah. Trying to, well, I'm sure you have, like, your, like, I'm trying to think something that from that scene as well, that, my favorite, since we're in the afterlife, one of my favorite, like, dead, like, people is, the astronaut. By the way, I got to see a lot of those, like, costumes up close. For anybody that's in the Burbank area, the WB store, the like basically if you do the studio tour, it spits you out at, like, the exit through the gift shop. The gift shop part is free, and you can actually just, like, go on the outside, and sometimes they will rotate different props from different movies. Right now they have Batman Returns stuff, so it's a great thing to do if you're in Burbank and you're visiting. So I got to see the Beetlejuice stuff there, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, I've seen photos. I know, like right now they got the penguins, like Duckmobile, and
Yeah.
it's part of the yeah. There's well, also I think in the store they got like Max Shrek's costume and
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, while we're in the world of the dead, there is one thing that I feel like I can't be ignored, um, and that is I don't know how if you picked up on this. I know Mark Bernardin talked about it. I'm like, good for you. I see where you're coming from, sir. The idea that Tim Burton has been criticized in the last several years about like not having any black people in his movies.
Oh
He had
yeah.
Sam Jackson in Miss Peregrine, but that was about it. And did it
I just
feel insensitive to be like, oh, I don't put black people in my movies? Here's a Soul Train gag.
I understand, like, probably, like, not being super sensitive, but it was just Tim, like, just like that was something that he was fond of when he was little, and he put it in the movie. So I don't think he was just like, like, oh, I'm just gonna, like, do this because people said that, like, I
Oh,
don't,
I don't I don't know if
yeah.
he was doing it with malice.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I
not at all.
do think he might have been I don't even know if inside, but like not even maybe like tone deaf, like didn't even because my initial response
Yeah.
was to go, ha, 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 I get it, Soul Train, because I used to go to a barber shop that
Uh,
always had Soul Train on. So like I
oh, that's
like
cool.
and because I used to go, it was always like on a Saturday morning. So I kind of grew up in the barber shop watching Soul Train. So like I understood the reference, I understood the joke of it, but
Yeah.
I also after a few seconds went, wait, is this all the whole joke is just there's black people in the terminal as like 70s
Uh,
funk people? This
oh
is
yeah.
kind of
But it wasn't just black
this is
people
kind of
though. It
what's
wasn't just black,
well that's the thing is upon second or third viewing, but it's really random. There's like these 2 or 3 old white suffragetts.
Yeah. I don't know. People like had, like, a big,
But
it didn't bother me. So
well, I'll tell you what bothered me
yeah.
was the second the logic of the joke. If and I don't want to fucking overanalyze jokes. It's like the enemy of comedy, right? But
Yeah.
but I instantly was like, Wait, so they just always hanging out in the terminal? Like, I
Yeah,
would get it if like the
yeah.
conductor was like, "Yeah, Soul Train," but like we go back to that terminal twice, and both times there is a gathering of 70s
Mm.
funk people.
I the
I
way
get
the
the
way
joke, but why that? So there's just
the
always people hanging out. It's
the way I read it when
not
they
on the
would
train, just
right.
hanging out.
No, the way I read it when they would introduce that scene is that people would like start dancing to get like to like go towards the train. I mean, I didn't. I mean, like, yeah. I mean, I'm just those are my 2 cents on it, but like I didn't think it was Um,
I'm
I
not
love
flipping tables over it. I just do
yeah.
think it's funny that like
Yeah, I can see I can see the other argument. I'm not gonna be like, oh, all those people are wrong to think that, but I can see the other point of view. But personally, like, I mean, yeah, I didn't
yeah.
see, yeah. So
I would say I'm not offended like I'm flipping tables, but I did bump into it and going,
I can
this is
see
the
why
gag in
people,
2024.
I
But
can see why people raise an eyebrow
yeah,
for sure, for sure, for sure, yeah,
but I
for sure.
mean, there's also, and I have so many other nitpicks. But then I also have this weird like I allow the nitpicks, and I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
I think we set up that Astrid and Lydia,
Mhm.
are not getting along right now because Astrid is still hurting over the death of her dad, and she
Yeah.
blames Lydia for it.
Yeah.
Right? It comes up a few times in the movie. Lydia goes to with Beetlejuice's help to the other side to try to get him back. We see Astrid's dad.
Hmm.
He saves them from the sandworm in a really cool shot, by the way, where we follow her getting pulled up into the door and we rotate through the door to the other side.
Yeah.
And we kind of pass through a wall, but we don't ever do the digital whoosh effect. But you're like, oh,
Yeah.
that was one environment to another, and we passed through in one shot. That was fucking cool. Um, but after we reunite with the dad,
Yeah.
they literally just have this one scene where he gets a cup of coffee, and it's just a series of 2 or 3 sentences like, "Hey, I've been watching." I'm not exaggerating here. He says like, "I've been watching you guys for a while. I don't want to be the reason that you guys don't get along. You guys need to, be close together because you worked better together." And then they're just they that fixed it. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow, we just breezed over that entire fucking storyline with like 2 sentences. And I can't
Mm.
help but wondering if, like, when you're outlining a movie, you go, this is the scene that needs to happen. He says, what he conveys is they need to get past their thing because they work
Hmm.
better together. But they
Hmm.
never wrote a full scene of dialogue. They just kept that placeholder of
Hmm.
what needs to happen in the scene. And we're thinking, fuck, you just skipped over everything and went right to the end, did you? Because they look at each other and kind of smile, and then she
Yeah.
apologizes in the graveyard for a second.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
thing used to bother me. One of the things I've come to accept over multiple viewings is kind of like the first Beetlejuice. The first Beetlejuice is kind of light and breezy with certain story elements.
Yep. Yep.
And that's actually like I'm kind of viewing this movie through such a contemporary lens that you're like, oh, you really are kind of doing Beetlejuice again, where we kind of just get to it.
And actually, I know what you mean because the first time I saw the movie, that scene did feel like do the end. Like that
Yeah.
scene just kind of, but then each time I watched it, it did kind of get a little bit kind of like more emotional for me. I was like, oh, this is very like, this is very sweet. By the way, in that same kind of scene, just to kind of like, before I forget, it's one of my favorite moments. Like, it's kind of sort of like Beetlejuice being a hero because he's like, I got to go to the little boy's room. But like the dude is totally going to like go get the Jeremy and like pull the thing on him to take him
Yeah.
like to send him to hell. So like it's kind of funny how Beetlejuice like is like he's the antagonist, but he's kind of sort of doing things to help as well. It's kind of
Yeah.
cool.
Sometimes I wonder what's driving him because he leaves. We don't know where he went.
Yeah,
Then Delia needs help. She wants to find Charles. So
yeah,
she calls him and he goes, I'll help you find Charles. You need to help me find Lydia. And then
yeah,
the very next thing is just that. Like there are times where I'm like, I don't really know what's driving him from scene to scene. It's a little
yeah.
inconsistent, but I love the payoff to that. But
I love that they because it was PG-13 they can only say one F word and
yeah,
and I love that the second one is bleep but I love that they used the one first one is like later fucker.
yeah. I I kind of wish that, yeah, because you can only get one fuck in a PG-13. And the
Yeah,
second one, like, I'm like, ew, it's beeped. Like, it's even for a comedy, I'm like, just have him say what the hell. I don't know. But
yeah.
I really do like that later fucker. Like, it,
It's awesome.
and the
Yeah,
lever pull, and like, no, that's great.
yeah,
So I'll take the beep later if it means that first one. But
yeah. How did okay,
no,
okay, really,
but I just want to touch upon how, like you said, we're talking about how easy the resolution over the death of their dad is. You're like blah 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 at the end,
yeah.
but Beetlejuice one is like, I don't know. Lydia doesn't like her parents. Lydia doesn't blah 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 blah. She's suicidal and writing a suicide note. Like we really
Yeah.
do just kind of breeze through things.
Well, it's kind of like the Maitlands. Like, I think we're dead. Oh, here's a manual. It was like this reads like stereo instructions. Like it's like just like
Oh,
okay, you know.
that's one of my
Uh,
little notes. Is I don't like that Astrid can pick up the book and instantly go, oh, I need to draw a door, and then summon a sandworm. Like it's supposed to read like stereo instructions.
right, right,
You
right.
shouldn't
Yeah.
be able to just instantly read it and get a sandworm. But
On,
again, in the last movie, they don't even fucking explain how fucking Barbara rides a sandworm into their world. And
exactly.
sometimes I need to stop overthinking it.
But
This is
but
Beetlejuice.
But on that note, what I do want is I want a replica of that fucking book, and I want it to be all filled out because it looks like whoever the prop master was in this movie, they like it looks like
Oh,
they did a lot of heavy lifting there. And that's actually one of my that was actually I guess I'm gonna plug my toy again really quick. That was one of my favorite things doing the toy. My guru toy was like one of the hands I have him holding the recently deceased book. But in my version, I drew is it Bob and Barbara?
Barbara and Adam.
Sorry, oh no way, it's not Bob and Barbara. I think that's a bar in Philly that I used to go to. Yeah, Barbara and Adam. I put them on the cover as the couple that's looking to the sun.
Yeah, yeah,
So
no, I love that little reference.
yeah, yeah,
Like, I don't have it in hand or anything, but like I've seen the photos, and that's
yeah,
a good gag.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I want to talk about MacArthur Park, but if you have any other notes about stuff, let me know.
I do, but I want to hear you talk about MacArthur Park.
Well, it was funny the first time watching it because I didn't grow up with that version of the song. I grew up with Weird Al's Jurassic
Same.
Park is Frightening in the Dark. So it was a little hard the first couple of times. It was hard to like kind of get that version of the song out of my head, and especially the stop motion music video. But now that song, both the Ed Harris and the Donna Summer version, I'm in love with. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's also weird that in a weird way, like Richard Harris, the actor, is in Beetlejuice via this song.
Yeah, the song. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I just go ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
No, you.
No, for the longest time I thought that Ed Harris was his son, and he's not.
No, he has a different son that
Who
acts, but not Ed Harris.
who is an amazing he's one of my favorite actors. He always plays an amazing villain.
Yeah.
So uh,
Uh yeah, I mean, I know he's got a bigger body of work like Mad Men and all this stuff, but he was also like one of the Umbrella Corporation guys in Resident Evil Apocalypse, and I'm always he's the guy who invented the virus. So,
yeah, I think he played like a sea captain in Benjamin Button too. So he's
oh yeah, he
he
might have. Yeah,
yeah,
he's great.
yeah.
Um no, one of the things I just wanted to touch upon, it's there. I mean, there's a bunch of little things, and again, little humor, little tiny humor. When he's singing in MacArthur Park, he's singing about his loves, and we see Dolores in the background, we
Yeah.
see Lydia in the background, and then we see a dog.
We see Tim Burton's dog.
Oh, is it Tim Burton's dog?
I think so. I think it's one of his. I think it's one of his. Like, yeah, like I think he was kind of sort of paying tribute to like one of his dogs.
Okay,
Yeah.
I like one of two things. One is that as a dog person myself, I
Yeah.
like that he loved a dog that much.
Yes.
But also when it's Dolores and Lydia, I'm like, or did he love? Because
We're getting into Clerks 2 territory.
Yeah. Hey, fucko. It's called interspecies erotica. Like, no, but like Beetlejuice is such a screwed up guy that like,
Yeah.
I guess, you know,
Yeah.
either way.
Well,
But I just love that it would just dissolve to a dog. It just made me
no,
laugh.
actually, let's talk about that. That's actually great.
Okay.
That's a great segue to how I love how Tim. Well, no, I'm not going to get into what you think I'm going to get into. I love how Tim like used this like movie to pay tribute to his Italian horror love for Italian horror.
That's a big thing we haven't touched upon. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you didn't, first of all, I remember just seeing the poster. She's going through the photos, and there's pregnant Lydia. I'm like, that's a Mario Bava poster. And then she's like,
Yes.
oh, that's at the Mario Bava Midnight Movie Fest or whatever. I'm like, dope. But we do like a whole like Black Sunday sort of flashback scene.
I love that like they use like you can tell they're fake, but then when they bite like the chicken's heads off, like it's so good. So
and
good.
the sets in that.
Yes.
Well, especially when they're getting married, but also just like the backdrop and also I don't need every fucking line in a movie to later be like lore in a sequel, but I actually do like when he mentions, well, I lived through the Black Plague and had a pretty good time during that, and we actually do get to see him living during the Black Plague. Oh, like, and I don't hate this, and you made it fun.
And I love little details like that, like don't hit you over the head, but I love like that his pants have stripes.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
Yeah. Little things like that. But to go back to dogs, the star of this movie is Taco. The dog
that's on the fan.
Poor dog. I love those. That's one of the first things like I love about the intro about the movie. Like when they're shooting Ghost House, there was a part of me I was like, when they do like that fake inside show stuff in movies, I almost wish I'm like, can you just like shoot the entire episode so I can watch it as a special feature like later? It's kind of like how Quentin did like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm like, did you shoot all those episodes? Like, can I watch them? But I love the two people that they cast as like the homeowners because they're so like Americana, like like nifty 50s, like put like in a modern world, like show. It's kind of hilarious,
and they're very eccentric looking facially. They look like something Tim Burton would have drawn.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. They didn't get people with like kind of bland neutral faces. Soft features. Yeah, there's a lot of little like you still get a little bit of like the classic Tim Burton where you've got like these Americana people and outsider weirdos and artists.
Yeah.
You get with Dolores his like stitched and stapled female kink.
Yeah.
But there's this little thing that he threw in this that I went, oh, this is very Nightmare Before Christmas, where the secret exit from the world of the dead leads to a graveyard, and just like Jack Skellington, just like I don't know, I'm gonna just go through this door and go back to Halloween Town.
Oh, dude!
Come out of this door.
I didn't even think of it. That's great. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Oh man, so good.
I went. This is so Nightmare Before Christmas right now, and I have no problem with it.
He's following his own rules.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
There's another little thing that I thought, I don't know if it's a bad thing or a good thing, but I did find it interesting, is that for like in Beetlejuice 1, if she's going to say his name, he's throwing the metal thing at her, all this cartoon shtick.
Yeah.
At one point when they're in the church, Astrid tries to say his name, and he like makes her speak it backwards, or it's like muffled.
Mm-hmm.
But after, I still don't remember, I don't know the character's name, I just keep calling him Justin Theroux. But after Justin Theroux and Dolores get eaten.
Yeah. Rory.
Thank you, Rory. Once we find out the contract is null and void because he brought a living person, the contract burns up. Fine.
Right.
But Lydia says Beetlejuice, and he goes, ugh! And I'm like, why don't you just do something? And she says his name again. I'm like, wait, what is stopping Beetlejuice from not letting her talk? He just lets her say his name 3 times. And again, I got all kind of shitty about it. And then I went, well, don't overthink it. We don't know how Barbara got on a sandworm.
I think maybe
the idea is that the contract burned up. Like any special skill he has right now, he can't use all of his tricks because he violated something.
Yeah.
And in this plane of existence, he can't. I don't know.
No, you're right. You know, your logic is right, because when they're in the therapy session scene, he puts like the sewn mouth.
Stitches, yeah.
Yeah. So,
But one thing that's cool was we've never seen what happens in the real world when you say his name 3 times. Turns out he inflates and explodes.
and that's actually the best line, and one of my favorite lines in the whole movie that he does is like literally his face falls down to the ground. He's like, should have gotten married in Vegas.
And then poof.
Yeah.
Kind of like how the fucking was it Tony Cox who was the little priest in the first movie? He just sort of goes away in flame, and I like that Beetlejuice sort of goes away in flame.
Yeah. That's why like you said, there's like little nitpicks in this movie, but like overall, like this is a solid sequel. And I'm like, don't fucking tease me. Make a third fucking movie.
Yeah, and even when people go, "Oh, is the third one going to be about Astrid and her bad dream?" I go, I wouldn't be upset about it.
Yeah.
I mean, in the opening of the movie, I was expecting more where we come on to Lydia and she's saying something about like can the living and the dead coexist, and she talks about like conquering your fear, and I'm like, oh, these are going to be the themes of the movie. And then you watch the movie and you're like, this movie has nothing to do with what you set up in your opening scene. Yeah. But you could in the third movie, where if the theme seems like it could be conquering your fears, and your fear is like Beetlejuice being in your life and being pregnant and Astrid, that is something you could address in the future. But again, and I kind of touched upon this, that first movie is breezy about lore. Like you could say his name 3 times and it's a good thing, but also if you say his name 3 times, it's a bad thing. I don't understand, just sort of go with it. And there's a lot of little things in this movie where I remember, okay, I'm watching a Beetlejuice sequel, so just kind of go with it.
Yeah. Did you ever watch Looper?
Yeah, I fucking love Looper.
One of my favorite lines that Jeffrey Daniels says in that movie is like, this whole time machine thing is like, if you think about it too much, it kind of scrambles your brains, you know, like don't think about it too much.
We didn't talk at all about because you're right. I like the line in Austin Powers personally when he's like, but if we're going back into, oh no, I've gone cross-eyed, like and then he's like, well, it's best just not to think about these things.
What's the line from Dungeon Master is like, I create my own reality. What is it? Because Adam Savage used to say it all the time on Mythbusters, and I never knew what it was from, and it's from Dungeon Master. It's like I deny your reality and create my own, or something like that.
Oh yeah.
No,
there's a whole other storyline that we just kind of haven't talked about, but Astrid meeting the Ghost Boy.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot of fun. Like to me, that's almost a storyline I would have liked to have seen more of and less of Dolores, because I like this idea that she's seeing a ghost and doesn't know she's seeing a ghost. She doesn't believe her mom, and now she has a reason to believe her mom.
Yeah.
I love that this character died in 2001, so he's got a bunch of like 90s music, and she's like, what's with all this cool vinyl from the 90s? And you're like, I fucking know why you've got all this cool vinyl from the 90s, because you haven't been shopping in 23 years.
I actually that twist got me, because like how like kids now are like all like, like retro vintage. So but like
his excuse is believable.
Yeah. So but like then watching it again now, it like totally there. I do have one nitpick in that whole setup, is that when you see the mom revealed like how she died, she's got like a big fucking thing sticking out of her head, and when they first show her in the kitchen, there's got nothing on the face. So
I didn't pick up on it. My whole thing was there's something up with his parents, because we didn't see their faces. They're probably ghosts, but my dummy brain didn't think about him.
Yeah.
Even when he had the book in his room, I'm like, okay, so he did find the book. Like, was that Barbara and Adam's book? Like, how did he get the book? And I'm like, it's slapping you right in the face. He's dead. It's his book. And then you go back, watch, and here's why, like, we meet him, then we have a scene where she opens up about her dad to him, then they have the Halloween scene, and then they're off. We have one scene of them and getting through the little lobby, and the next thing you know, he's getting, like, it's boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
I could have seen that breathe a bit, but go back and watch those first 2 scenes. Watch him listening to her when she says, "Oh, my mom's crazy." He's like, "You don't believe that she like?" he's slightly amused that she doesn't know she's talking to a ghost.
It's like, hey, dummy, I'm right here.
Yeah, and all his lies about like his record collection. When he invites her over for pizza, I remember thinking, but you can't order pizza. Like I know they could pick up physical objects, but then I realized, oh, but you were never going to give her pizza because that's the night you're inviting her to go through the door and do the thing. But the second they're dancing and I notice the background is high, I'm like, wait a minute, they're floating. He's a ghost. I fell for this. You hooked me.
That's one of the first. That was genuinely like I'm usually pretty good about like picking, but I think that's one of the. It was one of those few times where like a movie I was like so into it that like it just kind of like took me on a ride, and like it was like I totally did not see it coming the first time I saw it. I'm sure a lot of people like picked it up right away, but I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I know people who did, but I felt. I mean, I knew something was up. I just didn't know it was that.
Yeah, no, like I knew there were settings. I knew it was like something's got to. We're going somewhere here. Like
something about his parents. I knew something was up. And
I was like, either he's gonna die or because I thought like for some reason I got the vibe that he was gonna die, and she's like, oh, now Asher's got to go like to the afterlife to like go save his life or some BS like that. But it was like not. I'm sure like they were kind of putting the crumbs to make you think that, and then like it just completely went the other way around.
Yeah, so, I definitely. I didn't see him being such a bad guy. That was the reveal was when Jane's like, oh, that house, the murder house. I'm like, what? Yeah.
Those parents. and then he killed, like he fell and he broke his neck.
Yeah. But I like that he told his version of the story, breaking his neck, and then we get the truth. And and also there's all these little things like in hindsight where she tells him like, I like your James Dean costume. Yeah. And he mentioned something about looking more like, what was it, like from Happy Days?
From Happy Days, yeah.
And she makes his face because in the 90s, because they say he died 23 years ago, so he died in 2001.
Right.
He would still know what Happy Days was.
Right.
She like wouldn't. So like I like that he dropped a reference that she didn't get.
Yeah. Totally.
And like, oh, that works because he probably wouldn't know like contemporary TV shows and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think they brought I think it was a big thing in the late 90s, early 2000s because of Nick at Night, I think.
Oh yeah, Nick at Night, and also let's not forget the music video for Buddy Holly with Weezer. Was a big music video.
Yeah, it was.
Everybody remembers the Fonz, But another thing that only hit me this recent viewing that I went, I can't believe I didn't catch this the first time.
Yeah.
He's wearing the same outfit the second time they hang out as the first time they hang out.
Oh, yeah. Like those like little...
Like the Maitlands always were wearing the same clothes.
Visual clues.
He's wearing the same flannel.
This fucking
How did I not notice that? He's wearing
dirty
the same...
teenager.
Exactly. But that's what... Yeah. Like I haven't worn the same t-shirt fucking 2 days in a row,
No, you're absolutely right. It's like those little things like you're just like... if like when like I said, like when you're going on a ride, like you sometimes like turn off like those little signals, and you're like, that's why like when it happened, I was like, oh my god. Yeah. By the way, like before I forget, I want to like touch upon this really quickly. How amazing is the soundtrack for this movie? There's a lot of people that I don't know saying like, it's a little like too many different songs, but I actually thought like all the songs like in it are kind of like fit kind of perfectly. Like my favorite one, obviously besides MacArthur Park, is the Dolores scene with using the Bee Gees.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Amazing.
Well, I also love that she glides through the hallway like the fucking Martian from Mars Attacks.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But to that song, and then everyone reacting to her.
Yeah.
No, this movie has a really fun soundtrack.
Okay, one other little nitpick. Why is her finger there? Isn't Beetlejuice supposed to have...
drove me up the wall the first time. And again, I don't want to have to do my own headcanon. And my headcanon for this is stupid and doesn't work, which is he takes it, he goes, she meant nothing to me.
Yeah.
He gets defeated.
The finger goes, yeah.
Either the finger goes on its own, but it's all boxed up. So I'm like, so does like some cleaning crew come and they go, oh, and then they go to her box and probe the nails and throw it in and rehammer it? Because why is it with her?
there is a quick throwaway, not throwaway, but there's a quick line. It's kind of like if you don't hear it, when Beetlejuice is in the integration room with Willem Dafoe, and he shows him the picture. He does the big,
Yeah.
Ahooga. He says, "I haven't seen her in real life or in the afterlife." So I'm wondering if he has already encountered her in the afterlife, and that's why she's in that box.
Oh, yeah, because I wondered if there was a history, and the impression I get watching it over and over again. Because again, the movie throws a lot at you the first time you watching it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that's why people feel like it's so scatterbrained and there's too much going on. Side tangent, like no, there really is like there's the main story with Lydia and like her relationship with her daughter. There's
Yeah.
little flourishes.
Yeah.
They're all sort of happening, and then that takes the first hour. Then we get to the afterlife. We prune some things. We tighten some things up. We get to a finale in the church. It's a busy movie.
Yeah.
It's just telling a few side stories. It's not that big of a deal. It really goes down better the second time. But I got on that subject because I forget. But we're talking about her finger.
Yeah.
I always wondered, like, if there wasn't some other history that we didn't see.
Mm.
But the impression I get from my latest viewings is that he chopped her up.
Yeah.
That's how she died, and he hasn't seen her since.
Right. Yeah.
And he just happens to have her finger.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, this is the problem when you just take a fucking random throwaway line,
Yeah.
and you make it lore. Like when you take Jack Sparrow's compass and you go like, "Oh, it's a magic compass," and fucking just
Yeah. But now it does this thing in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, because if anything, like I like that the finger like crawls up your hand, but in my head, she should just be missing a finger the whole movie.
That's why I was like,
that would be cool.
I was like, she's gonna go the whole movie without the finger, right? Like,
Yeah.
so.
And then my other thing is when it pulls up, it's so weird. I thought it should be like maybe a little gooky, and because it's been separated from her.
But
when it attaches, it's the same color.
Yeah,
and then what's really weird, when she takes the bride's dress and turns it black, her finger darkens, but only her finger darkens.
Oh, I didn't notice
and
that.
I'm like, so you can do a darker finger. Why don't you just make her finger dark the whole time? Fucking, don't overthink it. Just
weird. That's weird.
Watch her touch it. Her finger gets dark.
I'm gonna have to rewatch it. But you know what's crazy is like when they do the promotion and advertising for these movies, because there's literally a fucking poster of her like with her hand like this and the finger's missing.
Because I guess it's from that first moment when she.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah. I do like that I did not read and spoil stuff for this movie for myself, because I'm glad that I had like a genuine. The trailers definitely kind of give you like a completely different narrative. Like the trailers make you feel like they're still living in the town. Like I thought that Astrid like was going to that girls' school.
So did I.
So little things like that.
Yeah. And I thought Dolores was gonna have a much bigger part because of the missing finger and all that. And she, it's I don't know. I again, I'm surprised how much I like this movie. But when I stop and think about little things so she's a soul sucker. Her plan was to suck Beetlejuice's soul in real life. Now that she's back and she's awake, like Willem Dafoe says, she's out for revenge. You need to look out. You need to protect yourself. But she's constantly going, "Where is Beetlejuice, my love? We will be reunited." I'm like, do you love him or do you want to kill him? Or both? Are the lines blurred? I don't really get a sense of what the fuck her deal is. All I know is that he's scared. She even comes into the church. She goes like, "There you are, my love." And I'm like, are you saying it sarcastically because you're here to kill him?
Yeah. She's she's coming for him. She wants that soul that he was supposed to give to her. I do like a little bit off topic, but I do love that scene when they're like in the crime scene, I guess, like where it's Defoe and Keaton, and I love how Defoe's character calls Keaton Mr. Juice.
Oh yes, he doesn't say the name, and potentially summon him or banish him, whatever. Yeah, he refers to. Yeah, I think he says it in the church too, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Juice. Yeah. I feel like I've gotten it. Oh, one more little thing, just a note.
Yeah.
Not a complaint, but just as a movie watcher, the last scene where because the plan was for her to travel and see all these weird places with her dad. And they mentioned Dracula's castle, so we end with this shot at Dracula's castle. She meets this cute boy, ends up getting married. You know, this whole montage. The second that started, though, they're playing the music from the last scene of Carrie, which is a dream sequence.
Right,
so the second the scene started, I'm like, well, this is all fake. This is a dream.
Yeah.
And I understood the needle drop. And I feel like if you are not hip to Carrie, or if you're of a certain age and haven't seen Carrie, but to me, it projected that everything I'm watching is a dream.
It's fake. Yeah. Well, I hadn't seen Carrie in a long time, so I didn't immediately connect it. And now
Which is great because you got to go on the ride.
Yeah. So, but I do agree with that. I was like, oh, it would have been cool if they would have done, but I guess maybe it was like Tim kind of sort of doing his little wink.
Well, I get it. The guy loves horror. It's one of the most famous dream sequence musics. Like, I get why it's there.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's that important to the story, but for people of a certain age or of a certain fandom, he let us in. I would say he let us in too much if we're supposed to care. And if it's supposed to be like, fuck it, whatever. Like, it's a dream sequence. I'm telling you it's a dream sequence,
Yeah.
But
since we're talking about Burton, like, I guess like we're kind of on our way of like wrapping things up. But in a perfect world, I feel like Burton's gonna stay in like Warner Brothers, and I feel like I guess in my mind, in a perfect world, Beetlejuice 3, Batman 3, and I guess that's it. I would want to see like another original movie from him, like another Edward Scissorhands or something a little bit more personal. Yeah.
Because it's funny you're mentioning that because this is his first real like. Yeah, Batman Returns was like a sequel, but like this is the first time where there's time and he's like going back to the well.
Yeah.
And I don't ever need him to go back to the well for Edward Scissorhands.
No.
But it's funny you mentioned like a Batman 3 because that there is like a world after like people were so happy to see Michael Keaton back in The Flash that you could. I'm not saying you should.
Yeah.
But you could do a Tim Burton's Batman 3. Even though the two like those first four, the two Burton and the two Schumachers, they are a shared continuity.
Technically, in my
again, you just have to you just go, we're not doing that. We're we're
it's
doing
like,
the Texas the Halloween fucking 2018 bullshit all over again.
I honestly want to see a Batman 3, and this is just like, obviously for selfish reasons, but the biggest reason is I want to see Billy D. Williams as a Harvey.
Two-Face.
Two-Face, yeah.
I'll always be sad we never got that.
There's a comic book that came out called Batman '89, which I guess like kind of sort of
read it yet, but
I haven't read it either, but it's on my list.
Yeah, they did Superman 78 and a Batman 89 that like continue those worlds.
Yeah,
and Billy D. Williams did voice Two-Face in the Lego Batman movie, which I thought was a fucking awesome choice.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, then didn't besides obviously the cameo he had in the Flash movie, but like didn't Nick Cage also voice Superman like in the Teen Titans movie?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Yeah, I love
which
Superman.
Speaking of, I think Beetlejuice shows up in the Teen Titans as well. I
can't remember. I saw it one time.
I don't know if it's like that's the weird thing about all these things. Like it's like so cartoon version of Beetlejuice shows up on Teen Titans, but is it the movie? Is it movie cartoon version Beetlejuice, or is it cartoon Beetlejuice?
Oh God,
Jesus.
But
Anyway.
actually, one little back to the well thing that I would want. I've been thinking about this lately.
Yeah.
Topps put out the Mars Attacks cards.
Ooh.
They also put out a line called Dinosaurs Attack.
Well, I know he wanted to make that movie.
He did, and I feel like because he was talking recently about, and it's not a new thing for him, but just he collects dinosaurs.
Yeah, he's got like statues of them.
Big novelty-sized statues in his backyard. And I'm like, dude, you've never made your dinosaur movie.
Give me, like, not necessarily even dinosaurs attacks. Give me a Tim Burton dinosaur movie where all the dinosaurs have weird fucking stripes and they're weird looking. Like, give me that.
Honestly, if you want to do a stop motion movie,
yeah.
That, I don't care. But yeah, it was nice to see him kind of get his groove back to make a movie he cared about. I really, really love that Michael Keaton didn't phone it in. All of his scenes are great.
Yeah.
I thought Catherine O'Hara got a lot of great moments.
She
I
had
mean, a lot of this really works. Even when I didn't like Justin Theroux at first, I now like him playing someone I don't like.
my favorite part of his is at the end where he gets the truth serum, and like he like literally like when he's saying the truth, it does sound like he's getting diarrhea of the mouth. Like it's bullshit.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. He's always been a fantastic performer, whether
Yeah.
it's in drama or whether he's like the dread DJ from fucking Zoolander who does breakdance fighting. Like he's all over the map and he's great at all of it.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then we didn't really get into it, but like the MacArthur Park of it all is such a big, weird choice,
Yeah.
to make it the climax of your movie and to have it go on that long.
I was
It's
I was watching a little. I was listening to interviews and behind the scenes, and apparently, I guess Tim has a jukebox in his house, and that was like, I guess, a song that it was one of those things where he heard it and he told the writers like, we have to fit this song like into the
so
movie.
fucking random. And I like that though, but it's so random.
That's why I was like, is the third one going to be like a fucking Hawaiian song?
That's why I want to know if you do a third one, what's the song?
Yeah.
Because I talked about how in the first movie, it's almost like Barbara and Adam are like hipsters because like who the fuck in 1988 is like ride or die for Harry Belafonte of their age bracket?
Yeah.
And this is an even more random pull. Like I don't even know what you do for the next. It's so
Yeah.
The mind reels, but and also I think lastly, I don't want to ignore the fact that and I think you would agree with me on this. The fact that Beetlejuice is helpful in this movie, that we're pulling Lydia into this world. I like that there's shades of the cartoon in this.
Absolutely.
And that's just nice.
I also love the fact that her wedding dress at the end is slightly a little bit of a different design to go with her maturing. But I do love this is like just like a little behind the scenes thing that the wedding outfit that Michael Keaton is wearing is the same one from the first movie.
Yeah.
So and like
it sure looks like it. Yeah.
And I thought that was so cool that he made it a point that he didn't want to recreate it. They actually pulled the one from the first movie, and like he was like so proud that like he still fit like into it.
Oh, they didn't have to like alter it at all?
Yeah. No
shame and having to have
Yeah. So I think he like that kind of was good for his self-esteem.
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, I mean, this isn't that long after they did Batman, and he had to probably get in shape for that.
Probably, yeah.
And also Beetlejuice is never like Beetlejuice had a gut in the first movie. Like
Yeah.
Now,
that was something that I kind of had to go back. I was like, oh, they kind of like it's kind of almost like a pillow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, because one thing that I did notice too, I think it happens in two major moments in the movie. When the model first gets the Beetlejuice sign in the graveyard, and then later when there's a big shot of it and it lights up, you hear a big like Freddy Krueger sized laugh, a big Beetlejuice going I don't remember him like Freddy Krueger has an identifiable big laugh that he uses a lot. Chucky has a very identifiable laugh that he uses a lot. Beetlejuice in that first movie, I don't recall him laughing. However, doesn't the cartoon open with him laughing?
Yes.
So that's another thing where I'm like, that's from the cartoon. That's
kind of cool though. It's kind of cool that it's kind of sort of like the same thing. Not to go back to Ghostbusters, but the same thing happened with Ghostbusters too. Like they made Slimer like he's driving a fucking bus at the end. It's like okay, but I didn't know you had your driver's license.
But in this movie, I liked it, and in Ghostbusters 2, I didn't.
Oh.
And I remember sitting in the theaters. I was like 8 or 9 years old, going, "Why is Slimer a good guy in this? Like he's good in the cartoon, but what the fuck is happening?" Like a little 9-year-old me is like, "What the fuck?" Like,
well, I don't know if you've seen. There's a great deleted scene that I think they should have kept in the movie, is where Lewis is literally trying to trap Slimer in the firehouse. Like that's the first time Lewis straps on a proton pack. Huh. And he's like there's a little montage scene where they have the Run DMC song, and Slimer is like eating, and then like he flies off, and like Lewis like that's basically the scene, but it's cut off from that scene. But yeah, that's like Lewis like puts on the pack and like chases Slimer around the firehouse. So it's pretty cool.
I think I've seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've talked about. Yeah. I liked it.
Yeah.
But one of the things I like is I like it on its own, and then I like it in spite of little things that made me go, huh?
Yeah.
And I like that it retained the same structural spirit of the first one, where it also hand waved away things that I normally would go, huh?
Yeah.
And I'll give you one more example
Okay.
before we go. When so Beetlejuice is already laying low. He's told to lay low, hide from Dolores, staying in his office, having the Bob. By the way, Bob and all the other fucking head shrimp guys, I love them.
Yeah.
Fucking Bob's awesome. Very sad that Bob died.
Yes. Justice for Bob.
Justice for fucking Bob. I like that he gets like a fucking RIP in the credits. And I love that the title says Beetlejuice and it fucking just splits into two.
Yes.
Little things like that. No, but so he's in his office, looks at the paper, and he sees that Charles Dietz has died.
Yeah.
And he goes, that was my chance. And I'm like, yeah, or like your chance to do what? Like,
yeah.
And we don't ever like, can he only, because he's already been kind of visiting Lydia and she's been seeing him and freaking out.
Right. But maybe he has more power knowing that she's going to be in the house.
Well, actually, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, there's that scene where she says, like, she's like, whatever you do, she's like, I'll pay for it. She's like, but we're gonna destroy that fucking model. So maybe that. I don't need to see like an origin movie of like that the model's haunted, but maybe there's something to.
But that's like his gateway. Like, there's something about it that makes it an easier passage.
Yeah.
Okay, I see. I'm glad we talked.
See, we're here to help each other, man.
Fuck yeah, man. That's fucking teamwork. Yeah. Yeah.
That's fucking teamwork.
Before do you have anything else you want to add? Otherwise,
yeah. I mean, like, I just got I don't have it on me, but actually, I think it's behind me over there. I have the final soundtrack.
Oh, nice.
It's amazing. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about this movie. Like I think you and I were really nice about it, because I've talked to people that were like, holy shit, like I have a friend who's like a Beetlejuice impersonator, and like he is like, it's like his fucking Bible, and he's like, they didn't use the Chiodo brothers for the animation, they didn't use like the same makeup person, and like
that was unfortunate. I do miss
that, especially since she won an Oscar for that there are some things that like I do like. I mean, obviously I do agree with it, but I mean, in the big spectrum of things, I'm just like, it was great. So yeah.
It has no right being as good as it is. And I'm shocked how little they didn't just fucking repeat the same thing again. And also, as someone who does not really care for member berries, I feel very pandered to when they just go, hey, do you remember Proton Packs? Hey, do you remember the Twinkie? I like that this movie was pretty selective in how it member buried me. In just the right way and in just the right amount. It's a really good example of how to do it right, but still make a new movie that fits with the old one and gives you what you want, but gives you something new, but not too new and not too repetitive. Like, pretty fucking good. Well done.
I personally felt insulted in Ghostbusters Afterlife when they literally, the Ecto-1 stops and the glove compartment opens and it's like a Crunch Bar or something. And the fucking camera stays on it for like too much time, and I'm just like, I almost feel like it's like Jason Reitman like kind of giving me the finger, like it's like, remember. I'm like, dude, like, stop, please stop.
Yeah. I felt that way when she finds Spangler's suit and it has the Crunch Bar in the pocket still. And I'm like, look, I know fucking Ray gave him a Crunch Bar once, but he wouldn't keep it in his pocket for every year, like, and I know we, the audience, go, oh, I remember the Crunch Bar, but like, come on, really?
Another thing that drove me insane about that whole fucking lab, there was no mood slime. I mean, you can tell that I'm a big Ghostbusters 2 defender. Like, there was no mood slime, none of the suits, like it would have been cool if like one of the suits would have been black and had the Ghostbusters 2 logo, but there was like none of that. None of that. Oh, and I love how like they're showing them videos. It's like oh yeah, they fought like a big step up. Like they were in the fucking Statue of Liberty walking like through New Year's Eve. I'm like, that's even bigger.
I haven't watched it in a while, but when they're looking at it on YouTube, they don't show the Statue of Liberty's foot walking by. I thought they did.
Maybe they did. Fuck
I think they did, didn't they?
Yeah. I mean, listen, like I know that like in that Ghostbusters 2 is considered canon because obviously like Ray's
a cult. Yeah.
Yeah. But still, I don't know. I did feel like they were kind of like go over there.
Yeah.
So,
but Beetlejuice 2, thumbs up. I actually want a third. And I can't believe I'm saying that because I usually tend to hate legacy sequels.
We could literally do a whole episode just trying to guess the song that they're gonna write the movie around.
I mean, if it's Hawaiian, I mean, maybe not even like a Hawaiian song, like something kind of Jimmy Buffett. You know, that vibe.
Yeah. Because Danny DeVito, I forgot that there's like a little like Jimmy Buffett like it's not in the soundtrack, but it's in the movie, and like Danny DeVito's listening to Margaritaville.
Yeah, and I love it. I love when movies do this when you've got like diegetic versus not non-diegetic, where when she's putting herself together, it's the music that Danny DeVito was listening to on his headphones.
Oh yeah,
shit like that.
Yes, she says.
And I know I keep trying to wrap this up, but like I was so happy to see Danny DeVito show up in this.
Oh, dude, so good. I mean, and how about that practical effect? Like,
yeah.
And I love it when she's when she goes to the dry clean. Yeah. Oh man, so good. There's I now like I want to go like and like go into like little things, but I mean. If I have one last thing to say about this, it's just like watch the special features. It's like you could tell like how much love and attention got put into this movie. I mean, it's on the screen. So, but
yeah, it's not perfect, but it's surprisingly very good, at least in my opinion. Better than it has a right to be in this day and age.
If this was the movie that was the therapy session that Tim Burton needed to get his mojo back, then by all means.
and I would also say, I'm not wishing this on him, but if he's like, you know what, I'm retiring, I'm like, you know what, you could stop here, and this was like the nice return to form swan song, like you could stop if you wanted to, because this is a good note.
Yeah.
But if you want to keep this momentum going, please do. Get away from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, get away from something, and more of this, please.
I mean, he's supposed to do the next movie he's supposed to do is like the Attack of the 50-foot woman.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like, that's gonna be interesting. So like a new take on that. In a perfect world, I know I said like Batman 3, Beetlejuice 3. In a perfect world, I would obviously want. We don't need to have a Nightmare Before Christmas trilogy, but sure, you know, it will never ever happen because you know of the whole how he feels about that studio, but.
It's also, but that's a perfect little story that's done. I don't ever need to go through those other doors in the forest.
Exactly.
You know, Jack learned his lesson. Jack and Sally get together. We're done.
It's kind of like the Edward Scissorhands. It's like I was having this conversation the other day with a friend. I want a Nacho Libre 2. Do we need a Nacho Libre 2? No,
we don't need. Yeah, that movie is sublime.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear about what they were because they were gonna do it too?
In Japan.
Japan, he goes and does like sumo wrestling.
Yeah.
Which the potential for comedy is there.
Yes.
But also like, no, Nacho Libre 1. We're done. It's beautiful. But that's how I felt about Beetlejuice. And I'm surprised that like, hey.
The romantic in me wanted literally only to see Nacho Libre 2 just so I could see him married to the nun now and they have kids together.
Yeah.
Because the tension in that relationship is so hilarious in that first one that I was just like, you know, so good. But anyways, Beetlejuice 2, great. I hope there's more Beetlejuice babies in 3 maybe. So
yeah, I'd be down. Give me anything at this point. I'm actually open to it. So thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. This was really fun. I think
I got a lot out of this.
It was great. It was almost like I think we had like a therapy session. I was like, but like, why is this? And we kind of helped each other explain. Like that one time, I think we were talking about Kevin Smith stuff, and you were like, but Disney does exist. in Kevin
Yeah.
Smith. So I was like, God damn it, you're right. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for having me. And I guess whenever you want to have me on again, next movie, I'll be here.
Yeah, I've said it before. We've said it before a few times, but we need to get to like Kronos and Pan's Labyrinth and all that. Maybe this year we'll get
Ooh.
into more of that.
Oh, dude, you know what? Next year is actually would be perfect because his Frankenstein's coming out.
Oh yeah.
I feel
Oh, yeah.
like that's going to be a Frankenstein that fucks.
The one photo we have of
Yeah.
of like his lab, you know, in the table, and like he's looking at the window. I'm like, yep, I'm already sold. Let's go. Let's fucking go right now.
Especially the fact that I know. I mean, he already showed a photo of Bernie Wrightson's daughter on set, so I know for a fact that he's going to look like Bernie Wrightson's illustrations. I love that he cast
Cool.
that actor because I think that actor Jacob
Elordi?
Yeah, he's like you know he's good looking and stuff like that. But I love that he's literally going to be missing his nose.
Yeah, I remember when, because it was originally Andrew Garfield was cast,
Right.
and he had to drop out. And no offense to Jacob Elordi, I'm just such a big Andrew Garfield fan that I was like, fuck.
So am I. But you know what?
Fuck. But you know what? Jacob Elordi, based on those
Physically.
drawings, is a really good choice.
And then physically too, I think he's
That's
like
what I mean. Yeah.
he's like a tall he's a tall guy. So I think, and I mean, I was a little weirded out too, like by the whole Oscar Isaac. I love Oscar Isaac, but then now that I saw like his getup, I was like, oh man, like a Gomez, Dr. Frankenstein, amazing.
Yeah. I can't wait to see what he does with it because you know it's not going to just be some overly sloppy blowjob to the classic Universal movie.
Oh yeah,
kind of like how Pinocchio was not Disney's Pinocchio, or even just the straight story. Like it is a different setting. It's and I already know that this Frankenstein will be Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein.
Yes, yeah. Actually, you're right. I'm trying now. Now I'm wondering if he's going to stick true to the Victorian time period, or if it's going to be. But whatever. I mean, whatever.
Set in the fucking Mexican Civil War or something. Like the Spanish Civil War. Yeah.
I did that one shot that screenshot that they revealed. I love that laboratory had like blood and body parts everywhere. I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So until next time, we'll get to Guillermo del Toro. But thank you for joining me, and thank you all for watching.